Got 8 subscribers. That's fucking fantastic.
Oh, we do. That's gone up like
It's gone up 50 or 100%. 100%. It's gone up.
Oh my!
What is going on? I think we're live now.
Do it. I told you you have you fucking talk. You kick the show off your back.
We got that. I'm gonna open this up over here real quick so I can see who's talking to us. Hello, everybody.
What's up, motherfuckers?
I hope everybody had a great New Year's, Christmas, all the things, Kwanzaa, Festivus for the rest of us. You know?
Oh, Festivus, dude. Oh my god, dude. I totally should have fucking partied with Festivus.
Hell yeah, man. You get the pole with the sparklies, and it's the Festivus for the rest of us, man.
I did not know you were that diehard of a Seinfeld fan, dude.
I actually am not.
Okay, I am. So don't get me going.
one of my good friends sent me something about it, and I was just like, oh yeah, that's right. So I was gone. I think the last episode that we did in episode 6. So it's just Tyler did a great job holding his own.
Thanks. I have never talked for 90 minutes straight. Like I literally like I've obviously on my separate show I've had like 2-hour episodes where I babbled on, but there's fucking editing there. Okay, I've taken breaks. Like I talked for 90 goddamn minutes.
I'm gonna
like a fucking congressman or something, like trying to pass a bill.
Like, ladies and gentlemen, tonight we come to you with an important message about horror movies.
Yeah, horror movies and hot sauce. Speaking of all that, and craft beer.
Craft beer.
What are we drinking tonight, buddy?
All right, so tonight I am drinking. So this is if anybody ever makes the venture down to Austin, Texas. I mean, there's a lot of different places that you can go to check out different craft brews, but one of the ones that you can check out is from Meanwhile Brewing.
Nice, dude. I love that title.
It's the Tender
Meanwhile.
Robot. Yeah. So I don't know if y'all can see this or not. The lighting is kind of not great here. But it's Meanwhile Brewing. It's just like a little 2 hands or something. But basically, the long story short, that's what it says here. When they take over, we sure hope they're nice. This is our olive branch, just in case. The taste in this beer is pineapple, guava, and lime zest. It's a really nice tasting beer. It's also 6.2%. Nice little hazy IPA here. Generally, you will not see me drinking IPAs. It's a good one.
All right, dude. Apparently, me and Generic were joking earlier. The owner of this brewery, I'm not going to say it. Not that any of the few people watching right now probably are him or her. I guess there was a rumor that this person was racist. This is a big brewery, but you can probably find it across the country. Founders Brewing out of Detroit, Michigan. This is their I can't even see. I had a couple last night. Dark, Rich, and Sexy. I believe it's a porter. I'm going to pour it right now. I had one last night while me and my wife watched Glass Onion, the new Knives Out film. And I know this is a horror show, and that's not a horror movie, but I highly suggest y'all check that one out. That's a fun one. Fun murder mystery.
Oh, yeah.
Anyway, hot sauce. What do you got for hot sauce over there?
Ooh, for hot sauce. And I'm sorry for anybody that's watching. I'm sending out the invitation right or the link right now. So
yeah,
all
I'm putting
lovelies over in Instagram can check us out here. So what do I have for a hot sauce? The hot sauce that I have today is from the same company that y'all have seen quite a bit. This is from the Bravado Spice Company. This is the Black Garlic Carolina Reaper sauce. A lot of people might think that that's pretty hot. It's because it is. I'm just glad it doesn't have scorpion peppers in it, because that's really what does me in. but this one has notes of the Carolina Reapers, obviously, which interestingly enough, if you get past the heat, they're very sweet. Carolina Reaper, red serrano peppers, maple syrup, and garlic. So it's got a little bit of taste of New England there.
Nice.
For all the homies back east. So this
For
is
all
what
the homies.
All the homies. I'm not pouring this out because it's expensive, you know. It's for the homies.
All right. Cool, dude. I'm also kind of posting. I'm doing what we usually do at the top of the show. We're getting the word out here on the socials. But the hot sauce I have is I'm distracted. Sorry. Hot sauce I have right here. I had the brand last time when I was flying solo. I don't remember what the flavor was. But this just kind of, I think it was like some mango habanero thing. This probably is, I think this is like pineapple-y and shit. I had the brand last time. I got it again, and then like I got it again, not even for the show, but I was just it was like 2 weeks ago, and I was just like, maybe I bring this on. I kind of dig it. A-frame double barrel hot sauce right here. It's out of Florida because when you try to buy shit like this in Florida, all they have is other Florida brands, but it's really fucking good. I've been having it on my eggs. I got it in my eye the other day.
Ooh, how was that?
I mean, it's all right. But all right. So we got the hot sauce out of the way. I'm having hot sauce with some nuts here. I got some Wesley Farms Nut Lovers pistachio mix here. It's kind of been my fucking snack the past few days. But we got some horror movies we got to talk about. We've been watching. We've had literally about close to a month of time to watch stuff, and we got our 5 of 2022.
Oh yeah.
But we got our 5 of stuff we've been watching. Leading up to it. All right, mine's a little darker than that, but away we go. Why don't we start with, if I may? Yes. Why don't we start with you and I? I think you turned me on to the show.
Okay.
Alice in Borderland, the season 2 on Netflix. And I feel like you can maybe do more justice. I mean, I'll talk about it. Obviously, I'm not going to dump it all on you, but like, I don't know. Like you seem to, this is like more your bag, but I've caught on to it and I really fucking enjoy it. I really enjoyed season 1. I haven't finished season 2, but I'm really enjoying the games that are set up. It's a lot of fun. What do you think?
So for anybody who's not familiar, Alice in Borderland came out roughly around the same time that Squid Game came out. And I know there's like this huge hysteria for Squid Game. And I was like, that's cool. But there's also this other show, Alice in Borderland. Y'all should check it out. So it's a Japanese show. It's kind of the same concept. It's a death game. And basically, so it's like the way that they tie everything up in this between the 2 seasons is really cool. It was originally a manga, and then they adapted it into this show. The interesting thing is that there is a little like side segment manga for after the 2 seasons. I don't know if that's something that they're also going to do as like a Alice in Borderland special. It'd be pretty cool if they did. It fills in some of the gaps that are left from the 2 seasons. But basically, there's this group of kids and they're clowning around and they wind up like causing this car crash. Nothing crazy, but it's enough that they're like, oh crap, like we gotta get out of here. So they're running into this little spot and they get into this bathroom, and like you can like hear people like coming after them, and then it just stops, and they're like, oh, I think like the coast is clear. And they get out, and then they're walking out and there's just no one there. And I believe they're in Tokyo proper, like if I'm not and it's just empty. It's like a freaking ghost town. And I can't remember the name of the intersection that they're at, but it is like one of the busiest intersections, if not the busiest intersection in the world.
It's like almost the equivalent of Times Square.
Yeah.
And they shut it down for this damn shoot.
Yeah. And it's kind of like one of those things. And I guess it's something that if you're from any place where you get really bad snowstorms, that you might be a little bit more used to it. But I know especially down here in Austin, there's been a few times where it's been super cold and like no one wants to go out. And when I say super cold, I mean it's like maybe 10 degrees, 10, 15 degrees, something like that. Nobody wants to go out. And so you're driving around and it's just a ghost town. There's nobody there. So that's the same thing that's going on in this show. And so they basically they find out that they are in this like weird alternate world, and they've got to collect these like playing cards. And they get these things called a visa, which I feel is kind of in the second season, I feel like they almost just disregard the visa.
Yeah, I got that
Not a
vibe too.
thing that they have anymore. Like they have it, but I think it's like they've been playing games so consecutively that it's just like, whatever. But basically, like you get I think it's a 3-day visa. If you don't play any games, your visa expires. This laser will come to like shoot you in the face. If you fail, obviously, if you fail any of the games, obviously you die. And then you have like the people aspect of everything. So you have all these different things going where like pretty much everyone and everything is trying to kill you. So I loved it. I enjoyed it. I could go on and on about it, but we have a ton of stuff to cover today, so I'll let you hop on and
no. I don't have too much to say, like, because I would say like, yeah, I watched Squid Game about a year ago, or a little over a year ago, maybe, when it came out. And I remember being like, okay, that turned me on to a lot of shows coming from that region of the world, Korea, South Korea, Japan. I'm sure there's a few others that I'm just not thinking of, but like, I remember there was that 6-episode one about like those creatures that came from hell that just like ripped you apart.
Oh yeah, Hellbound.
Hellbound was fucking wild,
dude. They're supposed to have a season 2 that was supposed to come out this year, and no one, at least that I know of, if anybody that's watching now or is going to watch in the future knows anything about that show in the second season, please let me know. I've been scouring the internet.
It was so that show got fucking dark, man. Like,
yeah.
I was not expecting it to get that goddamn dark, but Alice in Borderland was kind of one of those like 3 or 4 shows that once I saw Squid Game, it like opened me up to other shows from that region of the world. And I think you recommended it to me, and I would like scroll past it, and I was like, I could tell why Generic digs this one. Like, there's kind of this like, I don't know, like there's characters in it that are like gamers and whatnot too. So like I dug that element of it, but some of these shots in Tokyo, like obviously, there's after effects and whatnot, but like I just can't believe how they pulled it off with just having the city abandoned and empty. A lot of great dramatic performances I was kind of shocked into as well. And it's just a fun little it does kind of go with a good double feature quality with Squid Game. I haven't finished season 2 yet. I think I'm halfway. I think I can't remember if I finished episode 4 or 5, but it's 8 episodes. I mean, if you're into these kind of things, like if you're into these kind of genres and whatnot, or subgenres, you could plow through these in a weekend. It's a fun little show. But yeah, everybody go check it out. Season 2 just dropped, I think, like about a week ago or so. It's ton of fun. We got more to talk about. What do you I got one I really want to talk about. Can I get mine out of the way, because it's the one I want to probably talk most about?
Hell yeah, just do it up. I'm gonna take a shot of this Reaper sauce while you do that. I don't have anything to eat it with. I should start doing that.
I have nothing to dip my nuts. So I've been using the bottle cap here on the hot sauce. But so I watched this movie recently, about like 3-4 days ago, and I was like, I have to fucking talk about this on Hot Genre Topics, because I've been doing a deep dive with Australian crime movies. As some of you know, and this isn't a horror, and like before I talk about the movie I want to talk about, I really want to quick preface The Stranger on Netflix with Joel Edgerton. It's an Australian dark crime drama thriller film. It's a 2-hour movie. I gotta say, horror fans will probably benefit from the first hour because it gets really dark and atmospheric. That I think if you pop it on at 11 o'clock at night, like I did, um, it'll hook you. The last hour, however, it turns into a bit of a police procedural. But reason why I preface that is because I put up a post in a Facebook group for like other cinephiles, and I was just like, I'm fucking hooked on Australian cinema right now. Does anybody have anything I can watch, especially in the crime drama? And someone mentioned to me this movie that is basically like a dark crime thriller that is pretty much a horror movie too, very real life horror, and is believed to be based on a true story about an actual crime in Australia. It's called Hounds of Love. It's a 2016-2017 release. This is a mean fucking movie. Like you're stuck with a director who's going to show you some shocking stuff. But oddly enough, what the film is about doesn't necessarily show you, but you just like, it's very psychological in the fact that you know what's going on. I believe it, like I said, it was based on an actual kidnapping, maybe in the 1980s, and I'm not sure if it's the movie's based on it or it's actually, or if it's like trying to do its own thing but basing off of some of those facts, or it's actually doing an adaptation of the case. Because like the girl that gets kidnapped in the movie, it kind of has that like 80s frizzy hair because she's going out to a party and she gets abducted by this couple, this man and this woman. I don't know if they're married or not, it doesn't really matter, but they're together intimately. And they just like the movie starts where they're at a like girls volleyball practice and they're just like scoping out the scene, and you know they're up to no good. And then they end up eventually kidnapping this girl on her way to a party like a few days later. And the way like this is one of those movies where it's probably for the most part, like if you can stomach it, one and done, just go see it once, that's it, move on with your life. The way that they go about capturing this girl is so haunting to me, and yet so simple, because they just bring her into the house. Hey, we got to do something real quick at the house. You just hang with us here, have a beer. We know you're underage, but have a beer. Hey, do you want to smoke? Blah, 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 blah. And then all of a sudden they corner her in like the corridor of their house. And it is just so like realistic to me. Like there's elements of this movie that obviously you take out the fact that you don't really see anything. You know that and I trigger warning for anybody out there who's ever been a victim of sexual assault, you know that they rape her completely. There are scenes that walk right up to that line that you don't cross, and then they don't show you anything. But it's just like, it's just from the performances. These two actors who play this couple, I believe they're Australian actors. I believe they've done only like a few things in the States. I think the woman has showed up in a couple ABC shows, and the man, who's very chilling. I think he was in like the recent Thor movie, but I don't remember seeing him in it. But they are just absolutely awful fucking people. But what starts to happen to kind of get you into some sort of a little plot within the film is despite all the horrible like acts that they're doing to this teenage girl, she starts to notice that the two of them have a bit of friction in their relationship. So she starts to play on that and turn them against each other. So it's interesting how through all the uncomfortable scenes, like there still is this kind of smart subplot of she's toying with her captors. Another trigger warning for animal lovers: there is a dog death. I usually fucking do a Google search when I see a dog in a scary movie, and this is more scary in the sense of realism, not like killer with a bloody knife. But I just forgot to do it, and next thing I know, the husband comes home angry and kicks the dog to death. And you do not, of course, see the dog getting beaten to death, but you hear it and you see it off the husband's face. While he's doing it, it's not fun to watch. So again, I feel like I'm not doing a solid sell on this movie because of all these horrific things that you see or think you see. But it is a well-crafted film, despite the just the director really fucking going there with this plot, and you really feel for all these characters. They do tap into the parents of the girl who's kidnapped. They're a divorced couple. The father, you can tell, has gone off and he's like filthy rich now. And the mother is like kind of living this lower to middle class life, but she's like happy. But like the daughter kind of, the girl kind of resents her a little bit. But that doesn't take up too much of the plot. But if you want something where it's like you really want to push the boundary of what you would want to watch in a movie of this ilk, Hounds of Love, I recommend it. I found it streaming on Redbox, which has a streaming platform now, I guess. It was for free. There's not everything on Redbox was for free, but this was for free. Australians really fucking know how to walk right up to that line and not cross it, but make you feel like you crossed it. Mm-hmm. And I will not be forgetting this movie for a while. That's all Hounds of Love, 2016, 2017 release on that. It's somewhere, one of those two.
It's actually pretty interesting. Because I'm not one of those people. I'm one of those very few people. I don't care if animals die in movies. I know some people are like really passionate about that. They're like, you can't kill the.
I'm not passionate about animals. I'm not passionate about it, but it's just like I can't stand it. Like anytime I've ever yelled at my dog, 5 minutes later, like we have a heart to heart.
Yeah. Well, I think it's one of those things where, and this is coming from like, I mean, I haven't, I've like taken care of other people's pets, but I haven't owned like a cat or a dog. I wouldn't want a cat. I hate cats. Yeah. Sorry, anybody who owns a cat. I'm very much a dog person, but I think and I kind of feel the same way about like movies in general where people are dying, right? Yeah. If it's done in a meaningful way, like it's, it adds some type of volume to what's going on. Yeah. I'm totally fine with it. Even if it brings me to that point where like I'm super uncomfortable and I'm like, ooh, yeah, I don't know about that.
I mean, with this movie, like obviously the horrendous things that they do to this girl, like already makes me like now just kind of be like, I want these fuckers to die.
Right.
And then like this scene where they get with the dog, I'm just like, okay, now I want them to die, get brought back to life and fucking die again. Like, like that's just credit to the actors too, for playing just awful fucking people. Yeah. But yeah, it was a movie kind of on a dare, and I just happened to go after that one. But let's keep it moving. What about you?
Yeah. So the next one that I got on the list that I've been watching. This one actually surprised me a little bit because I've watched movies like The Descent. Did not really like The Descent. I know a lot of people love that movie. It does some things very well. It just didn't hit the nails on the head for me. But this movie was pretty interesting. It's a French film on Screenbox right now. It's called Deep Fear. It's about a group of French students that just graduated. One of them is going to be going off to the military, and they want to celebrate. They want to do something fun and memorable as like their last time as like all of them together. So they meet up with somebody. And of course, like, what do you want to do to spice things up, with all your friends and everything before you head out and you're going to have those memorable moments other than go into some freaking catacombs? Why not? 14 minutes into the movie and I was like, no. So they decide that they're going to go into these catacombs, and they meet up with this other group of people. And they're basically like, I can't remember the name that they call them, but they're basically like just like these divers, and they go in and they check out these catacombs. A weird thing about it is that there are several layers to the catacombs. Something which I guess is, pretty true to most places. Pretty much wherever you go, you got to figure like there's always random stuff below us that we just have no idea about. And there's been several movies about stuff like that. So basically, they go there, and there's this like group. There's like a regular group, and then they're warning everyone. They're like, there's certain places that you don't want to go because like not so friendly people hang out there. And so
Yeah.
there's this like group of like Nazi kids that are, neo-Nazi kids that are wandering around. But then you find out, I'm not spoiling the entire movie here, but I will give this to everybody. You find out that it's not only that there are this group of like pesky neo-Nazi kids who are just assholes wandering around. Um, there's a new tunnel that they've been working on, and they find out that the tunnel that they've been digging, mind you, it keeps on collapsing because it's like right underneath where a major tram goes by. So they're trying to get it so they can just be stabilized and not collapse. They figure out that it's not a new part of the catacombs. They've actually broken into an old German World War II bunker. And there's some things in there that they don't want to experience, and so that is really where you get this like weird, you get the cat and mouse thing from the neo-Nazi kids. You get this chase from what they find inside the base, and then you get just the whole kind of claustrophobic kind of thing. So really pretty interesting movie. I was more taken away by it than I thought I was going to. um yeah, and that is Deep Fear.
Where's it streaming at?
So streaming on Screambox.
Right, right. Sorry, you said that.
Yeah, so as Screambox is kind of cool because it's like it's almost like Tubi, where
Yeah.
you can find some really interesting things if you dig. And the only difference is you have to pay for it. But honestly, the price point for what they have on there isn't that bad. Like almost their entire catalog, I would watch.
It's backed by Bloody Disgusting, I think. So you're supporting horror with your supporting Screambox.
Yeah.
Cool. All right, next up for me. I already forgot my damn list.
I gotta like take pauses in between with this Reaper sauce. It's actually like it's still building.
So next up for me, I'm going to kill two birds with one stone because I did a double feature with it. And I feel like it's a father and son duo. Well, two separate movies, but I did a double feature. One was a rewatch. One was a film that I need to rewatch again because that's just kind of the impression that the director always kind of has on me from time to time. Mm-hmm. I watched Possessor from 2020 and followed it up with Crimes of the Future, which I believe came out this year and popped up on Hulu. Possessor is directed by none other than Brandon Cronenberg. It was his directorial debut, son of David Cronenberg. Crimes of the Future was David Cronenberg's big kind of first movie. And I don't even know, like maybe 15 years or so. Like father, like son, these movies feel very similar. Because they're both kind of these like, sci-fi horror movies. I mean, David Cronenberg's one of the originals at doing stuff like this. But I was hyped. I made a pilgrimage out to 2 hours away from where I live here in the Orlando, Florida area, out to like St. Pete, Florida, nice beach area outside of Tampa, because Possessor in 2020, when theaters were kind of like softly opening up, but like nobody was going still. But in Florida, nobody gave a shit. So Possessor was playing at this small like art house theater, and I went out there and watched it. And I don't know, like I kind of maybe wasn't in the right headspace to see it at the time. And so
no pun intended.
What?
Said no pun intended.
Yes. So I see Possessor's been on Hulu for maybe like the last year or so or something. And I finally gave it a rewatch, and this movie got better for me a second time. I didn't hate it the first time. I just kind of like, I don't know, man. But fun little espionage, body horror. What in the fuck am I watching kind of movie. I still kind of have problems following the third act. But I would say the overall violence is so fucking crazy that, this is one of those films where I was like, all right, Brandon Cronenberg is on the map now. I can safely say that. And I can't wait for his next film, which we'll talk about probably in a little bit, because he kind of was one of those directors with this debut where I remember going like, this is good, but I feel like his second or third movie is going to like exceed this. So I'm really hyped for him. Yeah. Crimes of the Future, I believe dropped, I think was making select city runs about 4 or 5 months ago. This is Viggo Mortensen, who I believe was in David Cronenberg's last movie, Eastern Promises. I feel like maybe he did have a movie between then and now. I don't know, but Viggo Mortensen actually got Oscar nominated for that, but playing a Russian gangster. Huh. But this also stars Kristen Stewart. This movie is kind of David Cronenberg just returning back to his. I shouldn't say returning back to his form, because I never really feel like he didn't go off and do anything else, but there are just so many nightmarish fuel things in this movie. The fucking ear man in it messed with that guy. Oh, that fucked with me so much, man.
That made me feel like something that Guillermo del Toro would do.
Yeah, there was a lot of look, he's the king of body horror in my opinion. Now that all being said, I think I need to maybe give this another watch. I was a little distracted when I saw it, but I want to maybe bring it up because I know there's a lot of the fan base that loves films like these, and I think it's just very good dark sci-fi horror to it. Have you seen it?
Yeah, I've seen Possessor and Crimes of the Future. Yeah.
What did you think?
So Crimes of the Future, so there was something that was bothering me, and it's the French actor. I have no idea how to pronounce her name.
I know what you're talking about.
Yeah. So, and I feel like everybody kind of has this thing where sometimes you're watching a film and you're like, I know that person from somewhere.
Yeah.
And I couldn't freaking figure it out. Phenomenal actress. So I went ahead, I looked it up. Went under IMDb, and I was like, oh yeah. So she played a character, Fragile, in a game, the first game by Kojima Studios, Death Stranding. And so for anybody who hasn't played that game, it's not too much in the horror realm. It's more of very much on the sci-fi realm, which really fits a lot of the stuff that she does when she goes into the weird science fiction and horror realm. And so I was like, oh crap. I was just I didn't even know she was in the movie. But I liked that movie a lot. I think I like Possessor more than I like Crimes of the Future. Crimes of the Future was it felt like I was watching a late 80s, early 90s freaking Clive Baker film.
Yeah, Clive Barker.
Parker, yeah. I always want to call him Baker, but it's Parker.
Clive Baker.
Clive Bakery. But yeah, it wasn't bad, but it was kind of strange that I felt like the soundtrack, was it really 2 or 3 songs, or was I just missing something?
I don't even know if I was really paying attention to the soundtrack, but
that's one of the things I have a study list that is really just soundtrack.
Oh, I got you.
Between movies and games and everything. And I noticed that in a lot of the scenes, it was the same track playing, which is not bad. It was just overall, I felt like the movie, especially because I had watched Possessor. I tried to watch it once, and I had to go to bed and forgot I was watching it. And so I went back and watched it again, but I watched Possessor and then I watched Crimes of the Future right after. Mm-hmm. And I feel like Possessor was up here for me, and Crimes of the Future was down here for me. but conceptually they were like at the same level. if that
Yeah.
makes sense.
I'm kind of in the same boat with that. Yeah.
Yeah, like I like the concepts for both. Um,
Well,
but
David Cronenberg for me as a director, like I've pretty much liked a lot of his filmography, but there's like things like The Fly or The Breed
yeah,
or the Breed, The Brood.
yeah,
Um
I know what
or
you're doing.
Rabid and shit. Like there's a lot of those films where like I fucking out of the or Videodrome, like I love it out of the gate.
Yeah,
Then there's films like Scanners where I'm just like, I need like 6 watches on this thing to really fucking soak it up or something. Like I still have people hate on me. Like I still haven't really come around to Scanners, which is like one of his most iconic films. But
is it was it one of his most iconic films, or is it just that scene? It's like the head
a
explosion.
lot of people would argue it's just that scene, but that is a great fucking
It
scene.
is a great scene. It is a great scene, especially for that
You know
time.
what we're talking about with that scene.
Yeah.
All right, you're up. We're moving along good here.
Yeah. So
30
so the
minutes
next-
in, I'm already down 1 beer, which is exactly what I planned. That's why I'm opening my second one.
So we're talking. So the next one that I want to talk about, and this is one that I was super hype about. I really love what South Korea has been doing with films.
Yes, look at that pour.
Ooh, that's a nice head. That's a nice head right there.
I just got to the brim. Continue, sorry.
So this one also on Screenbox. And most of these movies, if you check out, I'm going to do a little bit of a plug here. My TikTok has been a little bit dry lately, but that is literally because I have been more focused on getting ready for this episode than I have of anything else. So I've been watching a ton of movies and everything, old and new. And this is one of them, The Anchor.
Okay. Haven't heard it.
So it just came out, I want to say at the beginning of December. I wanted to like this movie, and the acting is great. It has that spark of dramatic effect that Korean films do so well. But unfortunately, the thing that soured me about this film, or just soured the film in general, is it's another one of those films where the person develops dissociative disorder and becomes this like rabid killer.
Okay.
There's a lot more to it, and I'm not saying don't watch the film, but my expectations for the film were definitely up here. And then after watching it, it was just like, I feel like it's a little bit more of a generic flick. There is some interesting twists to it, but I feel like the kind of like the space of which everything happens and why it happens is very much like crammed together. So you start getting this history and everything, and there are some things that happen to the main character as a child that are very traumatic. Well, you don't really see any of it. It's literally everything that's going on in the present, and then it's within like a 2 or 3 week gap that the majority of this film takes place in. So you get a little bit of backstory. You get the 2 to 3 weeks where like this descent into madness takes place, and then the rest of it you're just kind of like, oh, okay. So is it an enjoyable watch? Yeah, I would say it's probably it's not trying to do anything to shock you or to throw you off the rails, or maybe they were and they just didn't land the mark.
Haircut.
But yeah, that is The Anchor. I wanted to pick one that just wanted to get one out there for everybody. If anybody wants to check out a movie about a psycho person with a dissociative disorder.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm surprised.
I still got to get Screenbox, dude. Did you wait? So is this did you say this was like a foreign horror?
Yeah, so this is a South Korean film.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah, a lot of really good actors. I'm not going to go through the list because I don't feel like the majority of people watching right now are going to know any of them. But it is a very well acted film. The acting is really good. Yeah.
I'm gonna give you one more because I only have one more because technically I did 2. So go ahead and do your next one.
So I have a couple that I can choose from. So I'll probably do one more after you do your last one.
Yeah, go ahead.
Um, so one of the films that I had wanted to do, and I don't think at any point in time, um, anybody from that movie is going to watch this at all. But if Rebecca Hall ever sees this, I would love to have her on the generic podcast at some point.
Or
Um,
come on, hot genre topics. Fuck it. Oh,
yeah,
she's a great actor. I just talked on my previous episode of The Basement. We are doing our What You Watching, me and Chris Carrantet.
oh yeah,
And this is not a horror movie at all, but she was in a little independent film called Christine,
yeah.
about a reporter in Sarasota, Florida, who battles depression and she commits suicide on the air.
Mhm.
And can't believe I missed the movie 5 years ago. Such a fucking good little independent flick. She's awesome in it. I mean, the film's like on her shoulders. Anyway, sorry, go ahead.
So I went back and I watched. I believe I bought tickets for it, and then I had to go to work. And like somebody like called out, and I had to be there. But this is none other than The Night House.
Yes.
I absolutely loved this film. I love films that really mess with your psyche, or like the perception of like what you're seeing and what the character is seeing. And this is one of those movies. And like you said, Rebecca Hall is a phenomenal actor, or actress. And I feel like if they had chosen anybody else for this role, it probably wouldn't have worked as well. But she
I
has
agree.
that very dynamic range where it's just like you really feel like the madness and like that lull into just loneliness and depression
Yeah.
that she's going through. And so basically what happens in this film, and I'm going to spoil it because it's been out for a while now. So basically what happens is she's living in this house that she and her husband lived in, and her husband built this house. And he winds up going out into or onto the lake and just blowing his brains out. And it's her trying to cope with his death. And so you're going along and you're like, yeah, like this is just, your typical loss and recovery movie. And then she starts hearing things, and there's a lot of different psychology that'll say, like, when you lose somebody, you start to have conversations, and like you'll hear the response from your loved one, right? Because you've just been with them for so long that kind of what they would say or how they would react. And so she's going through these stages of depression, but then the stages of depression start to get more real, and she starts to see things. She's waking up in the middle of the night because the record player that they have downstairs is playing the song that like her and her it was like the song that her and her husband really liked. I think they got like married to it or something. It was like their marriage song or something. But either way, all these random events start happening. And then what I need to go back and check it out, but I believe more of it is CGI than just the camera angles. But some of the stuff that they do with camera angles, like, so you start to see some of the things that she's seeing, and it looks like there's something watching her, like there's like a shadow watching her. And the way that they move the camera with all the objects and everything, you think that something is there, and then like you move a different way and it's like, oh, it's just like some objects, whatever. But she's still hearing things. And so eventually she finds out that there's another cabin or another house that looks exactly like the house that she's in, not complete yet, and she discovers something there. I don't know. I don't know if I should go any further than that, just for people that.
Yeah, I think that's a good like jumping off point, because I mean, I've seen the movie too, and was it a 2021 release or 2020?
It was 20. I think it was 2020.
Oh,
Almost.
yeah, I think you're right. Yeah, because I was like, I saw it maybe late in the game, and I was just like, I saw it this year, and I didn't know what year it came out, and I was like, this might be one of my favorite movies, not even just horror of this year.
Yeah.
It really kind of goes back to a lot of old school tactics of kind of your ghost stories, like of how you make a good ghost story at work on screen.
Yeah.
So many just great little camera techniques that just set you on edge. I mean, you see kind of movies like this like every 10 years or so. And I don't know, like everybody I've talked to fucking loves this movie.
Yeah.
But yet, like, I feel like it's a perfect horror film for non-horror fans, just people that kind of like, let's put on a scary movie tonight kind of thing. So like I think the general audience of people like of moviegoers like aren't aware of it. Or I don't know. I could be wrong, but I only hear horror fans really talking about it, which is perfectly fine by me. I have no beef with that at all. But I don't know. I just feel like I want to pull over my non-horror fans over to it and check it out because it's so much fun. It's such a well-crafted movie as well.
Well, one of the big things that I really like about this film, and this is not a dig to horror because it's a hard genre to take an audience, place them in a world, set up all the rules, tell them a story, and then wrap it up.
Yeah.
And I feel like a lot of stories, and it's not even so much horror, I think it's just genres in general. It's very hard to wrap up a third act. And I feel like The Night House does a great job of going through that first act and introducing you to everything that's going on, setting up the rules and everything else of this world. And then going into the second act where there's like, oh, there's some other things going on. And then you get that like explorative aspect. And then just the way that this movie wraps everything up in this like nicely packed, nicely wrapped package here is it's very well done. And there are very few movies where I can say not only is the acting great, but the writing for each act is on point.
Good shit.
Your rep.
All right, my next and final one that I can probably say I've watched more than
Yeah, I'm sure both of us
probably I can keep an account for, but this one is one I wanted to watch because there was so much buzz going into it, and it caught me off guard. All right, so it's A Wounded Fawn. It's on Shudder right now. This stars the great Josh Rubin, who was behind. Well, first of all, it's directed by Travis Stevens, who made one of the best horror movies of last year, 2021, in my opinion, Jacob's Wife, with the great Barbara Crampton and Larry Fessenden, about a bored preacher's wife who gets bitten by a vampire. And it is so fucking like, oh my God. Like Barbara Crampton's been like showing up in a ton of indie horror. She's back, she's such a great icon in the 80s. But I'd feel like out of anything Barbara Crampton has done, and no offense to any directors, because I know directors out there who got to direct Barbara Crampton, but I think they would even agree this may have, or Jacob's Wife may have been, one of the best movies she had done in the past, few years since she's kind of been back making movies. But Travis Stevens directed A Wounded Fawn, and he really got to go have a lot of fun with this. This movie has some similarities to a film I put on my top list of 2022, I must say. But regardless, I still think it was a lot of fun. It's about a woman who's a local museum curator who begins to start to dip her toe back into the dating pool. I'm kind of paraphrasing off of the Shudder plot line here on Shudder that they put up. So she has she ends up having like, I believe it takes place in New York or something, New York City. I mean, it doesn't really specify, but I could be wrong about that. But she goes on a romantic getaway with this guy that she's dating, played by the great Josh Rubin, who's also a great filmmaker and a great writer and producer as well, who may or may not be popping up on the Basement down the road at some point. I've been swapping emails with the guy, just saying that here on the air. But the two end up kind of, just a lot of weird, tense things start to happen at this get together, like an Airbnb getaway. And basically Josh Rubin's character is a fucking psychopath. We knew that going in. He is, the very first scene he's in is he's this guy who's bidding on this like ancient artifact he's having a bid war with this other woman. and he loses, but he ends up going to her house to try and like offer her a deal and whatnot. It's a very weird plot. I was not expecting it to be like anything about like, museum art and bidding on art, like have this little cool subplot to it. And he ends up killing the woman. This is in the first scene that kind of lets you know what his character's intentions are. And he has this weird thing, and it's almost very Son of Sam-esque. I don't know if you know who Son of Sam is.
Do I?
Yeah.
I mean, I know of the things of like the movie or like the actual happenings.
Well, the actual like killer in New York in the 70s.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, yeah. So for anybody who doesn't know Son of Sam, he's a killer in 1970s, serial killer who was on the loose in 1970s New York City, who believed that the dog was talking to him and named Sam and was telling him to kill people. Josh Rubin's character sees this like, fawn bird character in a suit. And it's basically what's possessing him to kill like these women.
Yeah.
And so basically what happens is when, later on in the movie, when he links up with this other girl and they go out to this weekend getaway and he cooks her dinner and basically he's plotting her murder, she gets away and it turns into like, and it took me a while to settle into this. Like, I didn't know if I was going to like it when this turn happened. It once it shifts where they start fucking with the guy, like the girl takes off and all these like weird creatures and women who are in like these suits and like these weird trippy suits like are coming out and like spooking him and shit. And he's fucking having like he doesn't know what's real and what's not. It starts feeling like one of those just like I don't know the right word. I won't say esoteric, but like 70s art house horror, which is just like weird, like drugs are involved, kind of making of the movie thing like you saw in the 1970s, like hippie horror. And it also helps that the film is shot on 16 millimeter film. So it has that grainy 70s feel to it, which I thought was a cool touch. And, this movie came out this year. And when it makes that turn into kind of giving you this trippy vibe, I got on board with it. Still, like I thought it was going to lose me and I really enjoyed it. And it has one of the funniest ending credits ever. I'm not going to give it away. So you got to get through the movie to get to it. It's just, they hold on a shot when let the credits roll. And it's so goddamn funny to me. I don't want to give it away. So for Shudder subscribers, if you haven't yet checked out A Wounded Fawn, it's a little out there. It's a little not your ordinary beat by beat 90-minute horror film. It gets, I know we like to explore things and try things new, but like this just like was not what the fuck I was expecting. And I gotta say, I kind of enjoyed it. So check it out if you haven't yet. Did you check it out? I know you.
I did. I was
shit! Here's a hot take. I bet you didn't like it.
No, so I like those. I like those kinds of movies. It actually so.
You're such an asshole. I bet you didn't fucking like it.
I don't know. That's a fair guess. Can I have a very odd?
No, because like so many times I've been like, "Did you like it?" And you're like, "No." I fucking hated it.
Yeah, I know. Like anytime anybody's like, "Did you see the new Jordan Peele movie?" I'm like, "No." But I did. I did see Nope. I'll get into that another time.
Okay.
I have to rewatch it. I'll put it like that. No, but I like it. Is it the hot sauce that's killing you, or is it?
Yeah, I just like slurped it up, man. Like,
I'll join you here. This one isn't as bad. It's literally once it gets into your stomach. That's why I didn't have it for a while. It just like bubbles in your stomach. So here
all right,
quick. And then I'll get to my film here.
Go ahead. All right, whatever you gotta do, what you gotta do, man. I'm not watching. I'm looking at the YouTube page right now. So I'm a little behind you.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Yeah. So A Wounded Fawn is kind of in that same kind of category of like it's a weird kind of. It feels like you're on drugs when you're
Yeah.
watching a lot of it. And I can't remember if it was just on TikTok or if I had talked about it on this show as well. But there was another film that came out on Screenbox earlier this year, which is going to be it's an honorable mention for films that I enjoyed this year. Is All Jacked Up and Full of Worms. And it's the same kind of like anytime you can get a movie where like I'm constantly just sitting there like what, you got me. I love those kind of movies. It doesn't matter if it's cheesy or it's serious. If you can get me to the point where I'm just like, what is going on? And it's like, it's a good thing. I didn't expect the twist that movie was going to take.
No. And you know what? Like, I'm happy it did what it did because, like, I don't know, like, there's so many movies like, oh, you're on a date and you're stuck with a killer.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen it before, man. Like,
yeah, it's hard. I think it's really hard to do storytelling in genre films now and be able to stand out and be different somehow. And I feel like bringing back that kind of weird you have to excuse me, my tongue is like numb now. I'm like trying not to drool in front of you guys. that like just introducing different concepts and mixing everything up some, I think it's a better way to go, because it's like we've seen everything that there is to see, I think, at this point. So now it's just like, how can you set your story apart differently from everybody else's? Which is not to say that it's a bad thing to have a bunch of movies that are pretty much the same, but it means that a lot of them are going to be a little bit forgettable. So I feel like the people who go ahead and sit down and watch A Wounded Fawn are in for a treat, and they're probably not going to forget that movie for quite a while.
All right. I'm hyped that you liked it. I was nervous. All right. You have one more, and then we gotta.
So I'm gonna go with one more. And this is sort of kind of like, since it's the last one, it's also more of like an honorable mention because I am still in the midst of watching this show. You can catch it, I believe, on Netflix. I probably should have looked it up. Another Korean film. I like foreign films and shows and all that stuff. Oh my gosh. This is called Somebody. And basically it's about this young girl who she is pretty dang smart.
My fucking hair, dude.
Yeah. I'm definitely, I don't know if you can see the sheen over here, but
I'm getting a haircut tomorrow and this hot sauce is poofing my hair up.
Oh, I'm growing my hair out. Still going until the summer hits. I might even still keep growing. I might grow it out this whole year and just see. I don't know. People seem to like my hair long. I don't know. So this show is called Somebody.
Okay.
So this show it's about this girl who goes ahead and she is a programmer and she builds this chatbot system. And basically what it does is it analyzes everything that everybody says in the chat room. So it's kind of like a weird thing between like the old school like AOL days where you went into the AOL lobby and you had that chat bot that did absolutely nothing.
Yeah.
And then the AI that people are getting accustomed to today. And what it does is it will suggest options to things, like it will analyze who, like the way that the character says it is it analyzes what the quiet people don't say and either anticipates what they would want to say, or like if you delete something, it'll analyze the conversation and decide if that's something that it should just go ahead and say. And so basically it works for like, say, like if you're in this chat group, it'd be like you and I and a couple other people, and it'd be like, oh, well, where do we want to eat? And this chat bot, while it's talking with everybody, will be like, oh, there's 5 new restaurants that opened up. And I think that like so-and-so will like it because you guys went to this restaurant and you really liked it. So like that on its own is kind of creepy.
Okay.
But what happens is that there's this string of murders that's going on, and the person that is murdering these people happens to use this app. And they're very confused because every single time that a murder happens, the user disappears. There's no IP address, there's no way to trace it or anything like that. And because of the privacy policies set up by this company, this killer has found all these loopholes that makes it so that the police also can't investigate these murders using the app. So there's all this stuff going on, and the point where I'm at right now is that she's met the killer, knows that he's the killer, but she's intrigued because the AI perceives this killer as being non-human because of the way that he reacts to everything, and how he lures his victims in. So I'm on the 4th episode. It's 8 episodes long, and I can't wait to see where it leads. So if you're looking for a new show, it's a South Korean show. It's called Somebody, and it's on Netflix.
All right.
That is the films I have been watching.
Fuck yeah. Now it's time to talk about the 5. Dude, I'm fucking pumped right now. I'm excited to see if we have any crossover here at all.
Right. So we have 2 segments left. So if anybody is joining in and you're worried that you missed out on anything, we just went over the films that we've watched this year that or been watching recently that we find interesting. And now,
dude, Whiskey Ghoul is here. She's here late.
What's going on? Thanks for joining. Good to see you.
All right. I didn't mean to interrupt you. I'm a few beers deep.
Good,
so
I'll be right along there with you. I mean, this is a strong beer.
Yeah, this is pretty strong too. I mean, or I'm just a lightweight now. I probably am. I'm fucking lightweight. So right now we're about to fuck. We're about to do our top 5 of 2022 in terms of horror movies.
And if you're watching this, let us know what your top 5s are. Let us know about the different films that we're talking about. Give us some feedback.
Straight up.
Hit us up on the hot genre topics page. Let us know what your top 5 are. Let us know the films that you're anticipating for this year.
Yeah, we are going to talk about what we're looking forward to in 2023 in just a little bit. But for right now, top 5 of 2022. We're a day late, but hey, fucking Sunday. The first fell on a Sunday, so
at the first day of the year.
Yeah, we're kicking things off. We sound stupid right now. Let's just jump. All right,
I'll let you kick things off here.
What's up? You want me to go first?
Hell yeah, do it up, man.
All right. I'm going with my first here. So this would be my number 5. I take it. So we're gonna go back to our because that's our it's my number 5. If that's how we're doing it. If not, well, fuck it, too late. I'm starting things off with a safe but still satisfying way to kick off my top 5 of 2022, and that is with none other than something just fell over there. The anticipation. That is none other than the reboot or revamp or whatever the fuck it is of Scream. Okay. Scream, you want to say it's part 5? You want to say it's kind of like the ushering in of the new generation? Go right ahead. I don't know. Obviously, I might touch on the Scream 6 or whatever that's going to be hitting theaters in a few months, actually. I think it's March is when it comes out, when, Ghostface goes to New York. This is the new era of Scream, where they kind of, Nev Campbell's in it. She's back, but she's not a pivotal part. They really give kind of the new generation of kids credit on screen and give them more of the story. They're kind of taking control, and they bring back, your legacy characters of David Arquette and Courtney Cox and Nev Campbell, like I just mentioned. Look, Wes Craven created something amazing with this franchise. In the mid 90s, horror kind of needed a captain of this ship, and he kind of took up that mantle because, you know, you had the 1980s, the decade before, and nobody really knew what to do by the time you hit the mid 90s. So it was kind of like, well, why don't we just kind of spoof, but still kind of make horror, make fun, you know, still kind of have something scary. And that's where Scream kind of came from. I'm slurring my words a little bit, but you know, obviously, you know, he passed away in 2016, I believe, was when Wes Craven died. So like, I was a little nervous when they wanted to bring this back, because like, I don't know if Wes Craven not having his handprints on this was going to work. And I feel like it really did work. I feel like they gave a great balance between your legacy characters and your Jenna Ortegas and a few of the other actors and cast members that are coming in to kind of usher in the new generation of this franchise. And look, I was a kid when Scream came out, the first one, and you know, my siblings were teenagers, so I kind of got the buzz from them and I kind of got into it. And it just really, it's one of those franchises in horror that is like, I don't know if it's on the Mount Rushmore, but it's definitely in the Hall of Fame. It's one of the best franchises in this genre, and I'm happy to see it still thriving over 20 years later. And I'm excited to see where the next generation goes with this franchise. It was a fucking that's like my opening statement there, but I don't have much more to say about it because I'm just so hyped that they had a fucking good film with it. Good fan service, but also new things to challenge old fan members and bring in new fans to the genre. Yeah, I don't know if you have any thoughts on Scream. He fucking hates it.
I mean, I'll keep it brief. It wasn't a franchise that I got into. It definitely was more of, like you said, you know, like when that series or that franchise came out, you know, I think we were in junior high still. And
what, dude? No.
I feel like we were like in
1996, man. I was in elementary school.
Was it 96? Holy crap, man. We were okay. So we were, man.
I think the third one came out when we were like in sixth grade.
Oh, wow. I see. I thought it was a little bit further than that. But then again, I still feel like 1990 was like 10 years ago. So like my perception of time is like,
it was like 30, but whatever.
Just getting old, man. I'm getting old.
Yeah, I'm looking at myself right now with a shaved face, and I'm like, yeah, I'm old now.
Yeah, so that was definitely a series that I was not allowed to watch by any means. I do remember it was something that like my sister had watched. I think it was either that or I Know What You Did Last Summer or something like that. Okay. One of those franchises. And I remember my sister talking about it because those films came out roughly around the same time. I did not see any of those movies until after high school. And it was one of those things where I feel like if you didn't see those movies relative to when they came out, is either you're really going to like it or it was just kind of meh.
Yeah.
And to me, it was more kind of on the meh side, you know? And I've seen all of them, and I forget everything about any of them. But I was like, you know what? I'm gonna go. I'll check that movie out. And so I saw the new one, and I was just like, oh, like this is actually like the tension points that they have on there. I feel like it was really well done. I'm not a huge slasher film guy.
No, I know. I'll give you the benefit of the doubt. I know you're not a slasher,
but I enjoyed the new one for what it was, and I'm actually I will confidently say that I am in anticipation for the next one that's coming out this year.
Hell yeah, dude.
It was a fun movie, you know. It wasn't anything.
Yeah, Scream is kind of more known for just like, you know, like we were talking about, like with the Night House, like kind of trying to pull over those non-horror fans into at least enjoying a horror movie. Mm-hmm. Like Scream did that. Scream has the respect of your genre fans while you're just average movie going fans, because it's such a fun theatrical experience. Like that, like like, just again looking back, like again, I was a kid when all this was going on, but like if you look back at like those mid 90s, I mean, yeah, there were a few, kind of standout horror films, but some of them were like kind of underground, like not a lot of people really dug them, but horror was in a weird phase in the 90s. Like there just wasn't a lot of like the big time A-listers were stealing up like movies that pretty much were just horror films, but that yet they were like winning Oscars and shit. Like, fucking Julia Roberts is in Sleeping with the Enemy. That's a goddamn horror movie. I don't care what anybody says, but like, because Julia Roberts was in it, is a thriller. So like horror was getting like this, people were forgetting what horror was because there were films that should be little lowbrow horror films that with A-listers in it.
Yeah.
And Scream kind of like in the 90s brought it back to its core and was able to kind of propel the genre forward. And I think that's why everybody worships Wes Craven, even though I know he's been gone for like 6 years. But yeah, it was, I didn't get to see it in theaters. I actually watched it at home on Paramount Plus. And I wish I kind of saw it in theaters, but I don't know. Fun movie. That's my 5. What's your first?
So my 5th for the top 5 here is a franchise that I hold very close to my heart. I wish that they would handle this franchise and the I guess cousin franchise, parent franchise. I don't know how you want to describe that one. But this one is none other than Prey.
Nice. Almost made my top 5.
Yeah, I had there were a lot of good films that came out this year.
Yeah.
And I had a very hard time making a top 5 for this list because honestly, this could be like an all night episode if we were really going to get into it. But I really like the fact that they took a step back and they were like, you know what, let's connect some of the dots and the plot points that have been made in these films. And they went back and they did a film where, interestingly enough, I guess there's 2 different versions of it, and I don't know which version is out on Hulu. But I need to pick up the DVD of this film because there was another one where they speak more of the native language than they actually do in the release that was on Hulu initially.
Interesting.
So the thing that I loved about it is that you have this confrontation going on between the French and the native tribe. I can't remember the name of the native tribe that they're warring against. But you have that conflict going on, and then you have the predator that comes in and just totally cleans house. That's the only way that I can put it. Like, I didn't see, I to be honest, even though I said it's a franchise that is near and dear to my heart, I skipped the one right before this where it was like they had like the super predator or whatever. It was just getting like too out of control, and I was like,
I talked about this on my my other podcast because my guest came on and Prey was in his top 5 for the year.
Yeah.
And so it's The Predator was the most recent one.
Okay.
Before this,
Predators was the one before that, and that was pretty fun.
And it's almost like it's the Predator franchise is interesting because there's a lot of great ideas, but just I think like a lot of failed execution in the films. Like the one where they go to their planet, I thought was a genius in concept, but something about it was just like kind of forgettable for me. I don't know. And The Predator from like a few years ago, I remember thinking like I love Shane Black. He's a great writer. I mean, he was involved in the original one, writer of things like Lethal Weapon and a bunch of like great like action films of the 80s and 90s, knows how to write great dialogue. But like The Predators, I just remember there's like scenes in The Predator. I was just like, I like this scene, but it does not fucking belong in a Predator movie.
Yeah.
It belongs in like some sort of like stylistic, like kind of cop comedy, buddy cop drama movie, action movie. I don't know, but like, so I get what you mean.
I know what you mean. I mean, I think like the biggest thing for me, and if anybody in here is a Star Wars fan, I'm not talking about just the movies, I'm talking about the video games, books, everything. So if anybody is familiar with the Star Wars lore, there is KOTOR, Knights of the Old Republic, and that is
Yeah.
one of it is very early on. It's like right, I think it's even goes into some of the lore of like when they had the backpacks with the tube that went into the lightsaber, and that's how they had a lightsaber, because it was the lightsaber was originally it was powered by a backpack that you would have to wear, and you had like a cable that was attached to it. And I mean the Star Wars lore just goes like super far away. So it's like if this is like the Star Wars lore, right? Um, and we're talking about KOTOR, that's like way back here, and that's like a very violent, warring time of um the Star Wars series. And so when you're looking at all the lore that's been built up between the Predator, the new movies that they have now, where they're talking about the engineers and the aliens and everything. If you look at all of that history, there are several points, especially in the books, where the Predators came to Earth at different time periods. They came back and they talked about it in the AVP films when they went to Egypt, and they were doing the stuff there, which I wish they just, instead of the AVP movies that we got, which we're not anywhere near as good as the books. I wish
Yeah.
we had gotten something that was in Egypt. I think that would have been freaking awesome if we had gone back and saw how they introduced aliens and predators back then. But what I liked is that they went back to a time period, instead of being like, okay, we're just going to keep going with like current events and everything and go that way. They're like, let's take a step back. Let's take a group that is known for hunting. Even though I know a lot of people had, it's that old tiring thing of like, oh, there's a woman as the main character, and she would never be able to do that. Blah 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 blah. I'm like, it's a freaking movie, man. Enjoy it. you know. And so I love the fact that they just they went ahead with it, and I think that they executed it really well. I love the story. The fight scenes that you have with the Predator between, like, I mean, it annihilates the French, it annihilates all of the natives that are fighting it. And this whole time, I kind of it kind of felt a little too plot armory, kind of, that like she was never killed. There was times where like the Predator would like turn to her or towards her and approach her, but like it never got to the point where they were fighting until she had like leveled up, like it was a video
Yeah.
game. And it's like she finally had watched enough of how this Predator works to understand, like, okay, this is how I can fight it. And then like that ending scene, I don't know if anybody got to that point at all, if they finished the film, but when you see the actual ship come down, because I was thinking to myself, I was like, okay, so this Predator is dead now. And then they're always, so the big thing about the Predators is generally when they're sending them down, there are two types of Predators that they generally send down. One is the female. If there's like a lead female, they'll send her down because she's doing the hunting, and they're more like the hunter gatherers. The males don't do a lot of the hunting and the gathering. They do more of like the invasion type stuff.
Interesting.
And the second one is they send down the younglings to gather the trophies, and they monitor them to see, like, that is how they go into manhood. And so when they get killed, they'll wait until everything settles, and then they'll come down and they'll collect the body and they'll leave. And so they did some of that kind of stuff in this film, and I was just like, are they gonna like show more? Are they gonna come down and so when the movie ends, you're like, oh yeah, but that's not the end for them. That's like just the beginning.
Yeah.
Now they're gonna come back, and what's gonna happen next. And so I really am excited to see, are they going to continue that timeline? Are they going to go further back into history? Or what I wish they would do, and which is another reason I was talking about the Star Wars franchise, is I really hope that they go back, they zoom out even further, and they go to the time period where the Predators are fighting the engineers, and the engineers are like on the brink of death, and they're like, okay, what are we going to do? and they have to invent the alien species to wipe out the predators, and then it becomes Alien versus Predator.
That'd be
Because
tight.
that'd be freaking dope.
I thought you were gonna go with like they fight Jedis because Disney now owns the rights to fucking because I think Predator is on the Predator brand is under 20th Century Fox.
Yeah.
So I
Well, I mean, there's two terrible.
wouldn't that be fucking sick though? Like
I mean, I mean that'd be like as ridiculous as having like a Super Saiyan Jedi, you know, like it just wouldn't make any
yeah,
sense.
I know.
But I am just glad that they haven't decided to turn either Alien or Predator into a musical, although that might work.
There's a great podcaster. He has 2 shows. He's on Colors of the Dark with Rebecca McKendry and Pure Cinema Podcast. Elric Kane. Never met him, but I listened to all his podcasting. Great cinephile to listen to. He I think brought up the fact that like they should merge the Predator universe with the Purge. That would be fucking so sick. Like
that would be pretty sick. Like like introduce the Predator later on, so there's like this huge buildup, and you're like, what are they gonna do? And then the Predator shows up, and you're like, oh no.
that would be so fucking fun. Like just a night of purging, but the Predator just comes and just fucks everybody up. My 2 cents on it. Excuse me. Peanut allergy.
We need to call 911.
No, I don't have a peanut allergy. Don't worry. But no, I haven't seen the movie since since that opening weekend on. I watched it on Hulu. I didn't get to see it in theatrically, but that was just. I think everybody is in agreement when they saw that teaser trailer, and there's that moment where they're like, "No, it's a Predator movie. Fuck you!" Like, I think everybody loved, like, just thought it was such a cool concept. It really was a fun film. There's a few things I could nitpick, but they're not that big of a deal. But I think a lot of people, I think I'm just happy that like that franchise seems like it's back on track. So yeah, everything from the climax of that movie is so badass. Also, that scene where he fucks up all those French guys in that village is like, the gore is so good. I mean,
the weapons that it uses.
Yeah. When I was a kid, like I actually thought like Predator, I'm talking like Predator with Arnold Schwarzenegger was like a horror movie, but it is. But like, as I've gotten older, like,
it's a dark sci-fi film.
Yeah. I kind of put it to the side because I'm just like, I also look at it as like an action movie. Mm-hmm. So, but I would lump it in, you know, I mean, horror fans love the Predator franchise. We can talk about it. So I definitely, like I said, I almost put on this list. I think maybe because I have it in my head sometimes, there's like, you know, it's an action film also. Maybe that's why I didn't put it on, but I'm happy it is here because I like talking about it because it was such a good movie. All right. I'm going to move on to my next one here. Next one is something I read right before I got to watch it when it came out this summer. Okay. Did really well at the box office, streaming on Peacock still. I think it's still up there. Probably one of the big, I mean, like, you know, I don't know how everybody feels about it, but I think financially it was one of the bigger horror releases this year. I'm talking about The Black Phone.
Ooh, okay, yeah.
I
feel slighted about that film, but I'll get to that.
Okay, son of a bitch. So like I have the Joe Hill book here, and I, you know, plowed through all the short stories before I got around to, I think I finished within days of the film hitting theaters. Okay, I'm about to give it some praise, but I want to hear why you feel slighted. No, I want you to go first, actually.
So honestly, the only reason why I kind of felt slighted is because I really thought that the way Alamo Drafthouse, I've become like an Alamo Drafthouse whore. I go all the time. I thought they were going to do something like big with this film. And I am a big fan of films where they take a very short story. I think it's like 10 or 11 pages.
Yeah, it's like one of the shortest stories in the book.
It's the same kind of, I don't want to say concept, but like it's the same thing with like one of my favorite films is 1408 from Stephen King.
Okay. Yeah.
I think that's like 6 or 7 pages. It's the same thing with the sci-fi movie Arrival, where the aliens come and they have to figure out what the aliens are trying to tell them, and they have
Yeah.
like all they go on their spaceship or whatever, and but basically, I just thought that they were going to do something big with it, like maybe some of the characters were going to be there for the opening film or something like that. But nope, they didn't do that. They just advertised the living hell out of like any movie I went to. It didn't even matter if it was horror or not. They were like, the black phone is coming. But I both loved the movie and was bored to tears at the same time.
Interesting.
I think it was one of those movies where I I had read the short story. I really loved the short story. And for me, it was one of those things where it's like, how the hell are they going to make this into a feature film? And I feel like, wow, the movie is really great. And I would definitely suggest it to everybody. I I felt like it dragged a lot. Like there were a lot of points where I was like, okay, can we get some action going? But it's not that kind of movie. It's not that kind of story. It's not the kind of
No.
um and so pacing wise, I do not like the movie. Acting wise, top notch. All the actors were freaking phenomenal.
Yeah.
What blew me away about that movie is the fact that you really get the sense that you were in the 1970s, from the
Great
schools
production design.
to the outfits. Dude, whoever, like I need to look up who did the wardrobe for that film and who did the scouting for the locations for
Yeah.
that film, because they, yeah, and that blew me away. The whole time I'm just like, this feels like I'm walking down like an old basement, and like you get like that old timey kind of
Yeah.
like the kind of light mildewy
Yeah.
scent of, and then it's like you think about what's going on in that basement, and this guy is like, he's like, oh yeah, I'm not, don't worry, he's like, I'm not going to do anything you don't want me to, and I'm not going to hurt you or whatever, but like he's going to freaking kill you, dude.
Yeah. No, that's where I kind of wanted to kick things off for it. I just love I love movies that just like take place in a time period that like I wasn't even thought of, like my parents were in their 20s in the 1970s, I there still was a decade and a half, who knows, before I even showed up on this earth. And I love it when the production design is so good, where I just like almost get this like sense of nostalgia for an era that I didn't even grow up in.
Yeah.
And
Yep.
don't get me wrong, like, yeah, like it is kind of like a grimy kind of, I don't want to say downtrodden, but it just feels very like kind of like upper lower class area, like to somewhat middle class, like neighborhood town. I believe it takes place in Colorado, where the film takes place, where the story takes place. But yeah, like that was spot on, just oozed like mid 1970s kind of feel to it. And that I think is what drew me in, because I also just love movies from the 1970s. I love that era of filmmaking in any genre. It just, and I don't know why. But Ethan Hawke in the role as the I forget his name, but the guy who the villain in the movie.
Yeah.
I Ethan Hawke has been really making a lot of great career choices acting wise in the last decade, which I'm really happy with, because I always thought he was a good actor that never got his due, maybe in the first few chapters of his career. This is a guy who was in Training Day next to Denzel Washington, a movie that got Denzel Best Actor and one of the most kind of iconic roles of his career. But like people forget, Ethan Hawke goes like fucking toe to toe with Denzel in that movie and holds the screen with him. Like he's a great actor. And in this movie, playing I don't think I've really seen Ethan Hawke play much of a villain. I could be wrong about that, but seeing him kind of just get really dark and gritty was
I mean, we,
interesting to
we really
see.
haven't seen him get that dark and gritty since Sinister. And
Yeah, and in Sinister, he's not a
he
bad guy
wasn't the
either.
gritty
Like,
one. Yeah.
and it's the same director too
Yeah.
between these two films. And Sinister, I remember Sinister was a horror movie that once the trailer scared the hell out of me.
Yeah.
But
That was one of those films where there were a lot of people I talked to that did not like that movie, but the
yeah,
reason that they did not like that movie were the same reason that I loved that movie, and I lost a lot of sleep.
oh my god, yeah, like that is so that there are not a lot of movies that come out right now. I'm sure there will be soon.
Yeah.
That I can't. I can watch a lot of horror alone in my house now.
Yeah.
I'm happy I didn't watch Sinister alone in my house. Like, because I don't know, like that. There's so many shots, so many scenes in that movie that. To this, but anyway, the Black Phone. If this was the best of 2014, Sinister would definitely be on it.
Yeah.
But the Black Phone was just, I think, a great adaptation for me. I don't know. I think sometimes with really super short stories like they were, it does leave room for imagination.
Mhm.
And
I think that's probably why I picked them.
I think they did a good job kind of running with it and kind of making up some things on their own that kind of stay in line with the short story. Again, I don't know, like there's just little moments that kind of felt very, I know Joe Hill's probably trying to separate himself from, his dad a little bit, at least, being his dad being Stephen King. But like, I feel like there's a good kind of parallel between the two of them, father and son, as a writer, that I think is what I love about them as writers that showed up in the film from time to time, is that there's, just that monologue or that flashback scene of the boy who was like a pitcher at the baseball game, and he was like a really good baseball player, but then he gets like kidnapped later that day after the game. And I remember there just kind of being these really, I don't know, moments in the film that hit me to the core of just like, oh, here's this teenage boy who was once just being in a normal teenage boy going about his life, and then he got kidnapped and then he died. Yeah. And it just like really kind of hit me still, even on the page reading it, struck a chord with me. And it really, I felt translated well on screen. So if you haven't seen The Black Phone yet, streaming on Peacock right now, or I don't know, pick up a Blu-ray or DVD. But I didn't think I was going to like this as much as I did. And so I think that's why it was in my top 5 of 2022 in general on my other show. So of course I needed to put it in my top, said top 25, I meant top 5, but my top 5 of this show, we're just talking horror. So that's The Black Phone. You're up.
All right. So this is another one that you can catch on Hulu. I think it released exclusively as a Hulu original. This film, and I'll put it in the chat. If anybody wants to come and check it out here, you'll know before I say it here. So bam. This movie here is none other than Fresh from Hulu.
Ooh.
So this is,
I did not think you were going to put this on your list, and let me say it's higher on my list.
Okay. So we'll I guess we'll swing back to this, and No.
How about you just kind of go 50% of the way, and when we get to when it shows up on mine, I'll go 50% of the way.
Sure. Sounds good. So the thing that I really liked about this, and this is my big thing. I don't want to be lumped in and any of that kind of like political babble or anything like that, or like the feminist crap or whatever, right? And I know that this film really stands out as something like that. I just like the fact that this film really made me think about, like, I mean obviously, like, it's not a very realistic film, at least I hope it's not. You never know. There's a lot of sick people.
I mean, I don't know. A lot of people said it was Get Out for white women.
Yeah, that's a good way of putting it. But
Or women in
I
general. I don't know.
so I watched this film around the same time that I was watching Martyr.
Okay.
And I was just like, man, I was like, Martyr is like the more disgusting version of this film, and this is the more like on the edge of your seat, very disturbing kind of film. And I like the fact I don't think it would have worked if it was the other way around. If the roles were reversed, right, and it was a woman who was doing this and it was a guy that was trapped, I don't think we would have that same kind of emotional resonance with this film. um, but it is a film that I remember watching the trailers for it, and I was like, "Oh, this is kind of interesting." And then I watched the film, and the way that they set everything up, and the way that they have the different that is the big thing for me is we have another film where it's just like, is the woman the victim? Yes. Can she turn the tables around and make the predator the hunted? Yes. Is the cinematography on point? Yes. Color and lighting, are they on point? Yes. Is the tension there? Absolutely.
Yeah.
Dude, the point where you're watching her talk to this other girl, can't see her at all, and she's like, oh yeah, like, I'm gonna get out of here. And like, this other girl is just like, probably has been there long enough where she knows that there's other women that are there, um they're just not there anymore, right? Because they're getting cut up there. And at first, the thing that I thought is that this guy just had a voracious appetite and was just eating all of them. And then it gets to the point where it's like, nope, this is a whole operation where it's like, this is the underground grocery store where people just want to eat human flesh, but it's literally all female. Like, so the premise is that this guy has this great house, and he's like luring these women into the house, and then cutting pieces of them off, and then trying to like rationalize why he's doing it.
And then
And
you find out he's like married with a kid.
yeah, and that's kind of like the whole thing that I had with like the whole martyrs thing too, is like, you have these people that are doing like these terrible, vile, disgusting things to the point where it's like, you don't want to stoop to their level, but you also like, you want to see these people suffer because they're just doing horrendous things. And man, when she gets her revenge, it's just so satisfying. And like, unlike the martyrs where it's like that there's no redemption, I feel like the redemption in this one is like, like, I was sitting there, I was like, yeah, I'm just clapping, I'm like, do it, get up. Like,
Don't say anymore. Don't say anymore,
yeah,
because it's higher on my list.
yeah. So without saying anymore, yeah,
No.
we'll wait until we get to where it is on your list, and we'll discuss it a little bit further.
All right. So Fresh is, yeah, that was a fucking great movie. So with that being said, I'm going to now go into my number 3. And it's not Fresh. So therefore, it's one of my top 2. So this was I missed it in theaters, but thank God for HBO Max. I know not a lot of people have said that this year because HBO Max has been fucking sucking. But thank God it popped up streaming about a month after its release. I'm talking about Barbarian.
Ooh, yes. I almost put
Almost
that on the
didn't.
list.
It's on your list?
I almost put it on my list. I
Oh,
did
okay.
not put it on
I
my list, and I
almost
feel
took
like
it
it's on
off
everyone's.
my list. It was going back and forth between this and something I'll maybe mention, and when we do maybe some real quick honorable mentions. So Barbarian, so I saw so many people absolutely pissed off at this movie, and so many people there were just like, this is the perfect horror movie right now. And I have to agree, it is the perfect horror movie right now, because it's going to propel forward or either no one will be able to top it, because I noticed in the last couple of years there's been a lot of Airbnb horror.
Yeah.
And a lot of great films prior to Barbarian.
What one was it? The host, is that? No.
Superhost.
Superhost.
I thought
My
was really
goodness.
good.
I don't, that's not even on my freaking list. I don't know when that movie came out, but if
That
you haven't
was
seen that movie,
yeah. Talk to the director, Brandon Christensen. He's a great interview. He yeah, that came out 2021. That was a good one. That was a good one that like had a lot of like had an ending where I was just like, damn, they went there.
Yeah.
There was also why is the name escaping me? James Franco's younger brother directed it. But it's about like four friends that stay at like an Airbnb in like the Pacific Northwest or something, and pretty much a lot of no, there's like a lot of like kind of there's a dynamic between the four there, like they're I'm not gonna go into. I forget the name of the fucking movie. If anybody knows what I'm talking about, it's the Dave Franco directed horror movie. Um, but there was that one, and there was a few other ones. But Barbarian, I think it just kind of like it just moved its way to the top, and it's just kind of like this is gonna be the king of like Airbnb horror films, because of the twists and turns it took that I was not expecting.
Yeah.
For anybody who hasn't seen Barbarian, go take a shit or something right now, because I finally actually kind of want to talk about it. So if you haven't seen it, I don't know. Yeah, go do something else for like 5 minutes. But I love how this movie sets up. Is it Bill Skarsgård or whichever Skarsgård brother, as you think he is?
I think it's I think
the guy who plays Pennywise the clown in the new It movies. I love how it sets him up as he's potentially going to be kind of like a Sebastian Stan and Fresh, kind of this guy who's, means well, but he's going to turn on you and probably like fucking hold you captive kind of thing. And spoiler alert, no, that's not what fucking happens at all. Like he gets fucked up too.
Dude, that scene, so it is very far and few between, unless we're talking about I'm not even going to name the movie because it's an honorable mentions on my side.
Okay.
But there are very few films where I have seen people get up and leave for a bit and then come back. And you could tell it wasn't they were going to the bathroom, like they were like verbal, like you could hear them like, damn it, what the hell's going on? Like they like degrade into like South Park characters. And it's just that pivotal scene. Yeah.
Like I went in so fucking blind, and the crazy thing is
you have to
but
with
like
that film.
But the thing is like I don't know, there's something about it where it's like I went in blind, but it's kind of like I didn't even know I needed to go in blind. I kind of like it tricked the hell out of me. I thought I was, judging by the trailer alone, they set it up like you're like, oh, okay, she's staying at this Airbnb with this guy. She's gonna start smitten with him. He's gonna hold her captive, and like I don't know, he has like some fucked up like something in the basement that's like I don't know, like someone's gonna like mess with her, and there's something in the basement, but like
Tyler
in the fucking basement, and this is one of, now this isn't my number one, but I'd have to say out of any of the 5 movies I'm going to talk about at the top of 2022, it's the one I really kind of like once we're done here, just talking about it makes me want to go back and watch it. There's just so many shots in the film that like kind of like unsettled me. I love kind of scenes in horror movies where a person gets away from the threat and like gets back into the everyday life, but they turn around and look back and there's that creature like kind of like there, but then they have to kind of crawl back into the cave that they came from. And there's that one shot where she gets away and like she looks back and there it is, kind of like in the basement, like window looking at her and everything. I'm not gonna say what it is. I don't even really know what the fuck it is that was in that basement. But look, this is also a movie that when you get midway through it, it shifts into a
Yeah.
different character.
Mhm.
Justin Long, I thought, was great in the movie,
Yep.
playing a basically canceled actor.
I feel like that was one of, at least in recent times, that's one of his best roles.
Yeah, he's he should probably do more genre films. I mean, he was great in Kevin Smith's Tusk.
Was it the the whole thing where it was like, and I feel like we've all met somebody like this before that's just a complete asshole, but they don't know they're an asshole.
Yeah,
They don't want to admit it.
it's me, bro.
And then he's like, Am I really a bad person? Like, I didn't do anything wrong. And then you're just kind of like,
Yeah.
But
Well, like, I don't know, like Barbarian just fucking like really hit for me. And I think the older I get, I always say, like, you get a little more, I mean, they refer to like politics, but like, you get a little more conservative the older you get. And I could see that, like, I'll say it now, but I'll touch on it a little more later. Like something like Terrifier 2 is in my honorable mentions. It didn't make my top 5 because like I kind of like knew what I was getting out of that movie. I needed that comfort food. I think that's why America kind of flocked to it like it did. But the older I get, the more I want to be challenged as a viewer. And I think Barbarian, out of probably everything on my list, really challenged me the most as a viewer. So yeah, I know it's not my number one, but I feel like it's a very standout midway point to mention a film like this. So yeah.
Cool.
Right. Your number 3.
So my number 3, this is kind of a middling point here. Either you're with it or you're not, and I am fine either way. But the movie that I am talking about here, and again, it messes with your perception of things. I am talking about the movie Smile.
Almost made my list. Go ahead.
So the reason that I like this movie, and this is something that I talked about earlier with the anchor. Granted, this person doesn't have a dissociative disorder or multiple personality disorder, as it was originally talked about before the DSM-5. But the reason that I really like this movie is towards the end.
Okay.
And it's when she goes to the house and she thinks she's doing something, and then she realizes she's not. And it's just the whole what is actually happening versus what is in her head. And when you can do that kind of stuff and you get into that whole kind of like lighthouse situation where, and for anybody who hasn't seen The Lighthouse, it's not on any of the lists today, but go ahead and check that film out. If you can get to a point where you can make a movie where it's like, okay, evil's done with, story's done, and then it's like, oh nope, there's more story because actually none of that happened, and this entity is making you, it's literally playing with their victims' heads and their mind. And I wouldn't have put this movie on the list if it weren't for those last few moments. I think it was like the last 10 or 15 minutes of that film.
Creature reveal is so fucking
Creature
awesome.
reveal is just insane. And like thinking about like that kind of, that thing is manipulating the strings of like all these other people. And so it's like you get the history of what's going on and all this other kind of disturbing stuff that's happening to these people and what they're doing to other people. And then you see the face, you finally see the face of this thing that is like the master puppeteer of what's going on. And even after the movie, you're still not sure. It's kind of like The Thing. You're still not sure if that's the actual face of the creature that's doing this, or if that is just what is perceived by that character as being this malicious force.
Okay.
So yeah, those last, it might be kind of an ass pull to put at a number 3, but I feel like those last like 15 to 20 minutes of that film, it just did it for me, and I love that segment. So I'll
Yeah.
leave it at that for the people who haven't seen it.
I first of all, like, I love the marketing behind Smile.
Yeah.
I don't know if you know about what they did.
Oh yeah. So they are you talking about how like they had like the random people that were doing like the
They would
smiling
like
thing?
they'd sit they for anybody who doesn't like for anybody who doesn't know, the marketing team behind this is incredible. They would take, I don't know, actors of some sort, anybody who had a creepy smile. They obviously probably went through a casting process with this, and sat them down like at like the World Series and
Yeah.
whatnot, like behind home base. So the main game camera could see this person, and they would be smiling right at that game camera. And so like, and they'd put them in all these like big public places that were like nationally televised.
Yeah.
And I was like, fucking genius marketing right there.
Mhm.
Because like this, I don't know why I didn't put this on my top 5, because this is a film. Look, this is a film that, if you're a true horror fan, you get what it's trying to say within the first 20 minutes, maybe even less than that. First 15 minutes. It's a commentary on mental health. It's a
Yeah.
commentary of, trauma being passed from person to person.
Mhm.
Um, and that's something everybody probably deals with, and people deal with a lot in their life. And I haven't seen trauma be so shown so well in a film like this. I don't know. I haven't seen it seem so clear as day to me, but also I still enjoyed it, because sometimes when the overall message of a movie hits me in like the first 10 minutes,
Yeah.
part of me kind of goes like, you did it to me too quick, I'm out. Like, I don't know, like I need like at least to like the middle of the movie to kind of get on board. But the fact that I knew what was going on the first 10 minutes, like it still fucking hooked me. And there's so many, not so many, I think there's like only like one or two like jump scares at the end that got me, like when she gets in her car at the end and she's like goes to her sister's house. That part really made me kind of scare the shit out of me.
Yeah.
But yeah, that creature reveal, unreal. That's one of my favorite, that may have not made my top 5 of 2022, but that was like one of my favorite scenes of 2022.
Yeah.
Um,
It reminded me of there is I'll have to look it up. But there is an author that made a picture horror book that goes through the ABCs of mental illness.
okay.
And every single one is some sort of like terrifying creature. And that's what it reminded me of. It's something like that.
Yeah, no, I now that you mentioned that, yeah, I think I kind of know what you're getting at. I think I've seen stuff like that before. Yeah. Maybe I should have put this on my top 5, damn. Because I saw it recently. Again, it was something I missed in theaters, and when it hit streaming, I saw it pop up on Paramount Plus, and I was like, yes, I got it. No, good flick. And oddly enough, it's like a horror movie that's not shot like a horror movie. There's a lot of like scenes in hospitals. Like the overall color palette of the movie doesn't feel very horror to me,
Yeah.
but it definitely really hit. Damn, maybe I should have put this on my, but we're in our top 2 now. I can't fucking just put it at number 2 or number 1. So I'm gonna now go to my number 2, and this clearly gives away my number 1. My number 2 is none other than the brand new Hellraiser that dropped this
Yeah.
summer.
I almost put that on the list.
It was on the list and I took it off and I put it back on. Reason being because I'll explain later. But I loved the news that this was coming back, and it was felt like it was being put in good hands. And I feel like the initial reaction from a lot of people is they really liked it. And then I think a lot of people that didn't like it started coming out of the woodworks. And I feel like, yeah, maybe I haven't seen it since it dropped, and maybe there's some things that don't work, but I don't know. I don't know. It's hard to really explain things like that right now, but I have to honestly say the fucking bar is so goddamn low for a Hellraiser movie.
Mhm.
If you actually want to watch some of the bad sequels from part 3 on, they're all streaming on HBO Max, I think, still right now. I like, the one where he's in space and everything. And I kind of enjoy him. I'm not going to fucking lie, but
There's an interesting story behind the sequels. If you don't know it,
what's this story?
so the thing with a lot of the sequels after you get past 2, and this is something that they were talking about. I don't know if you look up the making of Hellraiser, the new one, the 2022 version. So these film companies, they have to keep these rights to things so that other people don't make films. And so a lot of the other movies for Hellraiser that came out were initially scripts for other movies.
Yeah.
But they didn't want to lose the rights to these films. So they went ahead and redid the scripts enough that it would fit some kind of weird Hellraiser vibe.
Yeah.
And so that, yeah, you just go off the walls with all these different ones. I will say I like part 4 though, because they go into the puzzle maker thing. And it's still cheesy, but I liked some of the lore that they had in it.
I remember hearing that that just a lot of these they didn't want to lose the rights. I think I think Harvey Weinstein was involved. I think the Weinstein company had the rights to the Hell. I don't want to say false information, but I think the Weinsteins had the rights to Hellraiser up until obviously, he gets, busted as a fucking sexual predator. But because I think it was Dimension Films that owned they were the big like late 90s like horror distributor.
Mm-hmm.
And that was the Weinsteins kind of horror label. And so I guess there was a lot of this kind of stuff where they needed to fucking make a movie because they were going to lose the rights. And before Harvey Weinstein got a lot of other different nicknames that he probably has now, one of his old nicknames was Harvey Scissorhands, because he would just take stuff, whether it was a film or a script, and he'd cut the shit out of it.
Yeah.
And like he was very notorious for like getting, when they needed to fucking make another Hellraiser movie, he would let's just fix this, tweak this, and let's put fucking Pinhead and the Cenobites in it. But on to 2022 Hellraiser. This just so like I said, the bar was low, but I could tell within the first 15 minutes that the overall atmosphere, even for a movie that, the franchise is close to 35 years old now, I could kind of tell the directors and the creators and the people making it get the atmosphere. And seeing Pinhead come back, obviously in female form, or if that's what we're referring to them as, but just kind of seeing a new take on the Cenobites was really cool. This, despite Clive Barker not directing it, I could feel his handprints all over it. Hellraiser was also a film. I don't know if I've said it on this show, but Hellraiser was a horror film that made me grow as a horror fan. I remember just seeing the original one and going like, oh, it's deeper than just a monster jumping out and eating you, or a killer with a bloody knife. It's fucking, you can go really deep and you can create worlds and shit, and you can just, hell doesn't have to be, red and smoky with a demon. Like, it can be this really fucked up thing, man. Like, I dropped my microphone. But I think maybe in my opinion, like to be critical of it, like yeah, maybe you could shave about 15-20 minutes off this movie, but that's really it. I had a lot of fun with it. I'm happy it's like still right there for me to watch on Hulu.
Mhm.
I'm wondering if they're maybe gonna do like a physical copy of it. I'd love to have like a Blu-ray of this thing. Um, I don't know. What you've seen it? What's your take on it?
So I'm a huge fan of those films. I thought I had, I don't know where it is. I started reading the sequel to the Hellbound Heart, which I didn't know even existed until I watched that movie. I knew the comics existed. I
Yeah.
knew like all the other things that are involved with Hellraiser existed. I just did not know that there was the Scarlet Gospels. So I started
Yep.
reading that. It's a thick one. So but yeah, that movie, I agree. There are some time limitations that I feel like I don't even want to say time limitations, but there are certain points where I feel like it was like, okay, can we pick it up here? Can we
Yeah.
move? The biggest thing for me was I loved seeing the ways that they had the Cenobites coming out for everyone.
Yeah.
And I think the one that and I think it's the main one too that they made in that film as like a big point is the one where they're trying to escape. And what I thought was so frightening, right, is I was just like, oh well, they're all in the car together. They're fine. Nothing bad can happen. And so they're in the woods and they're going one way, and you see the ground fall out, and you see that the Cenobites are coming up, and then they're like, nope, we're gonna turn this way. And then it cuts back again, and the Cenobites are like, okay, well, you're going that way, like we can go that way too. We'll play your game. And so then they just get freaking tired of it, and you get that shot where the girls in the back of this thing. And the only thing that really bothered me about the scene, it was like nobody was, so they're all panicking. I would have been that person, and I'm glad that there's no situations like that, but I would have been that person that would have been in the back with my friend, like, are you okay? Like, I'll hang out with you. Nobody did that. you know,
Yeah.
they're all just kind of freaking out, and you got this like person who's like dying in the back. And so they're freaking out, and then you just get this scene where like they're driving and the car just elongates,
Yeah. That was a
and
cool.
you're like, and it is one of the very few times where you now are like, there's not a lot of safe places anymore in horror movies. And I felt like, okay, this character is safe, like maybe the Cenobites are going to open up the ground or something, and the car's going to crash, they're going to flip over, and that's kind of what you expect, right, from how everything is going. No, this truck extends.
Yeah.
This person can see what's going on in the car. They're trying to like get their friend's attention, but of course nobody can hear them now because the
Yeah.
Cenobites have them. And just like that is where I was like, no, like that is like out of like any of the times in that movie, that's where I was like, man, that is just, it's so depressing because at that point there's nothing you can do.
Yeah. That
And
captured a real. Isn't there like a shot in that scene where like she can see like her friend being like tortured to death, but nobody else can?
yeah,
That
I think
scene
so. I
stuck
think
with me
so.
for so many days.
Like
That
they look
shot.
back and like one of her friends is like, oh, like it's too late kind of thing.
Yeah, like
But
there
like
that was a tough scene.
what sucks about that one too, right, is so with the other movies, you open the box, okay, yeah, like it's kind of unassuming, but like for the majority of the time, the people that are opening that box know what they're looking for. They know what they're after.
Yeah.
With this one, it's the curiosity killed the cat,
Yeah.
you know, and it has that blade that comes out, it gets your blood, and like that's it. Like it doesn't matter if you knew that that's what you were doing. It doesn't matter if you were actually looking for them or not. Like they have your blood, they're coming after you, and there's nothing you can do. And I just love the fact that they took away, it's like another one of those safe zones that they took away.
Yeah. I always counted on like the Cenobites to they're like they were the first villain for me, and this is going back to the first two,
Yeah.
where it's like the Terminator. Like you're never gonna get safe. They are always going to have you. There was just I think that's why I loved this new one, because it encapsulated that so well of like the first two, of just like you're just never gonna get safe from these things.
Yeah.
And again, like in the bad sequels, they kind of hype up the Cenobites as they turn into the villains a little more, I felt. But in the first two and in this one, like the Cenobites kind of go back to that like kind of straight and narrow of like, no, they're just doing what they've set out to do, and whatever you view of them is your fucking opinion. But like they don't seem like villains to me. You know what I mean? Like they do fucking awful things, but is it really
They're
awful in
kind of
their
like,
sense?
they said that they're travelers,
Yeah,
and
angels
I
to
don't know.
some or something.
I feel like Pinhead was a little bit more fair about everything than
Oh
the
yeah,
rest. And in this movie, they're a bit more ruthless, but they're still just exploring, right? Like
yeah,
they don't understand. They really, it's one of those things where they don't understand what's going on with the human condition, and the humans also don't understand their side of things. And like yeah, it's freaking terrifying. Like they're demons, but they're also not. Like they're alien travelers.
yeah. It's like that monologue in the first one when they first show up. It's like demons to some, angels to others. I forget the line, but yeah. Well, that's Hellraiser, streaming on Hulu right now. Just happy to see something good coming from that franchise again for the first time in like 20 fucking years. All right, you're number two.
All right. So my number two. So the last two on this list, it might give it away what my number one is here. But both of these movies are Taiwanese films.
Oh,
So the first film that we have for this list is none other than Incantation.
okay.
If you've not seen this film, or you're not familiar with the type of horror that I enjoy, this is probably not going to be on your list at all, or it's going to be lower down on the list. But the main reason that I like this movie so much is because I love movies about strange towns. I love movies that have some kind of weird religious cult, but also mess with you psychologically and are not afraid to go to, different extremes. And so this one, you have, it plays on some of the horror tropes of like the child can see more than anyone else can see. But basically, what happens is it's about this group of people that are filming a documentary, and they go to this town, and they're told like, hey, like, well, first of all, they're not supposed to be there. They're in the middle of like the town is in the middle of this religious ceremony, and there's not supposed to be any outsiders there. So they get there, and they're like, okay, like y'all aren't supposed to be here, but like, one of the sons from somebody is here. And so like just like stay in this rack shack thing and like don't come out and bother us. Like or you can leave. Like those are the two options, right? And so what happens is they go and they desecrate this area while they're in this ceremony. And so they leave, and all this like terrible stuff starts happening, and these spirits start coming and like haunting people and killing people and all this other stuff. And then like, well, we got to go back. And they go back. And when they go back, it is a very much like, if you've played the two games that I like to kind of tie this to is Silent Hill franchise and then the lesser known Siren franchise.
Okay.
Um, and it's just like you think the town is weird, then it gets more weird, and then it gets just like downright creepy. And it's not your typical horror movie where it's like blood, guts, gore, all sorts of kind of stuff. Um, there's not too many jump scares in this film. It is very much rooted in the spiritual aspect of horror that a lot of Asian cinema has. And to me, it's just one of those kind of hidden gems that's, I mean, I want to say hidden gems, but it's one of those things where it's like if you're into that style of horror, and you like that Asian influence, with a lot of the more spiritual aspects where it's not over the top like Insidious or something like that, then it's definitely a good movie to check out. I mean, it has like middling reviews, and I can understand why it kind of hovers in between like a 3.5 and a 4.0. It's which is, to me, I mean, anything over a 3 is worth checking out and recommending. So it's a little bit closer to a 4 out of 5 stars, for most people, but I want to see more films that are like that, just like strange towns, weird stuff going
Yeah.
on.
I always like movie. I like that, like makes me think of like David Lynch films
Yeah.
and like the whole like underbelly of like beautiful suburban America. There's always something fucked up going on. I
Mhm.
love strange town movies.
Yep.
All right. Well, we've reached our number one.
Yes.
But before, I'm just gonna do a speed round real quick of just honorable
Honorable
mentions.
mentions. Yeah.
I again, Smile was one of my honorable mentions. I know I was just kind of riffing with you earlier. But yeah, Smile is a great commentary for mental health, and I think it knows damn well it is. Uh, while also being a lot of fun as a horror film, I thought. I also want to mention two films within the same ilk but one of them I almost put in my top 5, and I feel like I loved it, but like I don't know. I saw it once, and I feel like I need to see it 2-3 times to maybe give more of a better analysis or just kind of riffraff about it. Ty West is a great year with X and Pearl. I mean, X isn't really in my honorable mentions, but I thought it was a good movie. But Pearl almost cracked my top 5. If this was a top 10, I'd probably put it at 6. I know some people would put it higher on their list. I just like I'm happy to see where he kind of goes with this universe, because I know there's a third one coming out, maybe I think in like a year or two.
Maxine, I think it comes
Yeah.
out this year because they filmed
Okay.
it the same. So they filmed X, and then shortly after they liked the location so much that they filmed Pearl. So
Yeah.
Pearl and X were filmed pretty much at the same time.
In New
And then
Zealand.
New Zealand actually is like a hot spot for a lot of films.
Yeah, because there's a lot of stuff you can get away with like out there, and
Yeah.
like they made New Zealand look like fucking Texas. That's wild. Um, yeah, no, all right. I wasn't sure if it was coming out next year or like it's still
I
gonna be
believe
like
it's coming out
2.
this year.
Okay, well, actually, you're right. It's this year because it's the first
Yeah,
today.
it's the first.
But Pearl, like I fucking loved Pearl, but like I saw it on like I think a week after it came out, and
Mhm.
I just like I really loved it. But I don't know why I didn't fucking crack my top 5. I don't know. Like maybe I'm gonna get some flack for that, because I know it's like a big hit this year. A lot of people flocked to it. A lot of people connected with it. Good old crazy person horror movie.
Mhm.
Um, so that's in my honorable mentions. Maybe if I had another day to think about it, maybe I might swap it out over Scream, but I fucking love Scream. Um, my other one is Terrifier 2 is in there because I'm happy that we kind of have our big. I don't want to say Art the Clown really is kind of the horror icon of your Freddy Kruegers and my phone's going off, sorry. Your Freddy Kruegers, your Jasons, you're kind of bringing back that horror superhero almost, but I would say he's pretty close to that when it comes to that kind of persona, at least lately. And I think, I had the executive producer on The Basement back in November, and he made a valid point that everybody's kind of been wound up for a couple years,
Mhm.
and they got that release to see it on the big screen and see Art the Clown, fuck all these people. So like, Terrifier 2 kind of is what it is, and it knows what it is. And executive
Yeah.
producer Steve Barton, when I interviewed him, he knows exactly the audience he's catering. They were catering to, and that's why I had to put Terrifier 2. I saw it 3 times in the theater. I just like thought it was a lot of fun. I know it's 2.5 hours. People had a gripe about that, but
Yeah.
there's just a lot of good fan service, and I think it's kind of good. I like how horror is very diversified right now, and I think it's very good to kind of still maybe have that, big. Again, I don't want to use the term icon, but just that figure of a crazy batshit master, heavily makeup killer right now. I think we kind of maybe need something like that. Not an influx of it, but so Terrifier 2 is one of my honorable mentions. What are yours?
So you nailed the first two. I mean, I think we're in complete agreement about Pearl and Terrifier 2. The interesting thing about both of them, at least for me, and sadly, I still have not seen X. I have it queued up, so I'm probably going to watch it either later tonight after we're done here, or tomorrow. But I hadn't also I had not seen Terrifier before I went to go see Terrifier 2.
Interesting.
So these are both films that are not only honorable mentions for this year, but they're both films that are sequels, and I watched the sequels first, and then I'm going back to watch the first one. So I think what's interesting is that both of these films, they did really well this year. And the only reason that they are not on my top five is because of the fact that I do like a lot of foreign horror, and I feel like it's very easy for everybody to be like, oh, what's your top five? And be like, oh, Pearl's on my top five, or Terrifier's on my top five, or like, no offense, but it's like, Barbarian is on my top five. And it's like I love those films. They all did magnificent. But my thing, especially when I talk about films, and like one of the things that my TikTok is about, is like really just broadening the horizon of like what else is out there outside of like American horror.
Yeah.
So when I look back at Pearl and Terrifier 2 especially, because of the practical effects and my just unyielding love for practical effects. And I guess in some ways Pearl 2, you get so with Pearl you get the acting. Mia Goth
Yeah.
is just
Oh,
absolutely
killing it.
amazing. Yeah. Uh like it's one of those movies where it's just like you never want to meet that character because she's probably going to kill you.
Yeah.
Um but you're watching that film and you're almost like sympathizing
Yeah.
with her, and
It
when
was
you
kind of
can.
like the joke, like Joker for me.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
It's like
like
you see the madness, you see the rationale of the madness, but you're also like, you're nuts.
yeah.
But I understand where you're coming from, but I never want to meet you.
Oh yeah,
you
definitely.
know? So that movie was just like so much fun. And I love and this is one of those things where it's like I want to get to a point in cinematic history where we don't have to be like that was a great female lead, because
True.
I feel like we don't have enough films where there's a great female lead, and I think she freaking kills it in that film, at least in horror. It's a very male dominated thing, and when you get to a movie where you can sympathize with the character, the setting just feels so natural, like it doesn't
Mhm.
feel like anything is out of place. um the whole thing where she's like, I just want to be a star. I want people to love what I'm about and what I'm doing and all this kind of stuff. And then you just see that like downward spiral of like everything that has led up to that point is just weighing down on her so much that she just snaps.
Yeah.
So that was really cool. And then with Terrifier 2, man, I I felt kind of weird watching that film because I knew that film was coming out. I had heard about Terrifier, the first Terrifier, and how gruesome it was. So I went back and started watching a lot of other films that people said were just like off the walls, just very disturbing. And so when I walked into that film, I was sitting next to somebody who like they have a YouTube channel of their own and they discuss different horror movies and well pretty much all sorts of films, but they're talking about the first movie and just like filling in some of the gaps for me and telling me about the saw scene where they saw the lady in half. And I
Yeah.
was like, man, I was like, that's gruesome. And I was like, so between all of the movies that I'd watched up to that, like I'd watched Brutal, which is I believe that is a Japanese film. There's a couple Japanese films that I watched, and I went back and watched some of the Hostel films 1 and 2, and a few other ones. So it's like when I sat down and went to go watch that film, I like my brain for that movie had already been calibrated to like, okay, there's going to be some massively messed up stuff in this film. So when they got to the part where the bedroom scene, and I'll just leave it at that because I
Yeah.
do not want to describe that, but it is a gross scene.
Fucking
It's really
wild.
gross. And like listening to, I think I was listening to your podcast where they were talking about how there was so much blood that was used in that scene that they had like she was like stuck to the bed or
Yeah.
the floor or whatever, and they had to like clean up everything enough that she could get like removed and everything. But the thing that I it was a gross scene, but the entire time while everybody else was like, there were people getting up left and right and just leaving and coming back. And like people that were like the audience was just reacting and like these like just like completely disgusted. And the whole time I'm sitting there like, like mouth agape, like how did they do that, and I love the fact that they got all those practical effects to work like that and they got all these workarounds and everything. And I love talking to different filmmakers that are still using that craft of practical effects and seeing how they um do all that other kind of stuff. But the other honorable mention that I have, because I could talk about those two films for quite a while. But the other honorable mention I have before we move on is All Jacked Up and Full of Worms. And it's not because Screenbox was like, hey, can you talk about this film on your TikTok and like promote it and everything? It's actually just a really freaking good film. And like I said earlier, I love those films where you're just like at the edge of your seat and you're like, what what is going on, and I feel like I watched a lot of those films. Some of them were like that kind of like this one was like a drug induced type film. So for anybody who is not familiar with this film, hasn't seen it or whatever, basically, and All Jacked Up and Full of Worms, what happens is that there's these worms that you eat and they just send you on this crazy psychedelic trip. And so there's this guy that is like in love with like a sex doll. And like there's some weird stuff that goes on there. There's this whole journey that starts with like this guy is having an overdose and there's his whole like mental journey. And then like there's this weird kind of like love story that's intertwined with everything. um and so it's really pulling you in a lot of different ways, to the point where you really have no idea what the heck is going on, and you really do have to like go back and rewatch it to really appreciate everything that's going on in that film, but it's definitely like, what? Like, am I seeing this right? Am I high right now? Like, is there something in my drink?
Is that only on Screambox?
It's only on Screenbox. It's only on Screenbox for now. I think the DVD comes out this year, so probably will be on VOD as well.
Okay.
I'm not quite sure, but it is definitely a film that people should check out. But yeah, those are my three honorable mentions: is Pearl, Terrifier 2, so the two that you had, and then All Jacked Up and Full Warms.
All right. I had probably a few more, but those are like my main kind of honorable mentions. All right. My number one is pretty clear based off of my reaction for earlier, or for anybody who's been watching for a little while. My number one, and I was hesitant to put it at number one, but I think it deserves to be at number one because when I think of like a movie that like I popped it on, it's fresh, by the way. Like I mean, like if anybody's doing the math from earlier, like yeah, it's clearly going to be fresh. But I just remember hearing about this movie before it dropped, and when I found out it was going to go directly to Hulu out of Sundance, I was hyped because fucking Hulu. I don't know, like Hulu. Sometimes I gotta do some digging, and like they'll have titles, even non-horror films, where like the poster art of it, where you're just kind of like, well, that looks cheap. Like, so, but I think Hulu's had a good 22. Obviously, Prey dropped on there, a few other things. I mean, they're talking about Crimes of the Future, that's on there as well. But when I heard about Fresh on a podcast before it dropped, I remember just thinking, okay, I can't wait till it gets there. And because of the sell that was by the podcaster talking about, like, because he saw it at Sundance, the fact that you have Sebastian Stan, who's in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, as the Winter Soldier. And look, the great thing about probably being an actor in the MCU is, you know, you're working with Disney. Disney can pull a lot of strings. Disney can lead to big opportunities. Disney can also lead to you getting the opportunity to go make the other films you want to go make or be in outside of your role within Disney. You've seen actors do that, like Chris Evans, who has played Captain America. You know, he, outside of playing that role, he's gone on to direct little independent films over the last 10 years that he probably just wanted to make and didn't give a shit if people liked it or not. So being able to see an actor like Sebastian Stan, who, like, I don't know him much outside of that role in the MCU, and I think some of those comic book superhero fans out there should maybe start flocking to see him in other things because he is fucking amazing and fresh. He is so turn on a dime, like, whoa, we're going. This dude's a fucking cannibal. It is one of the best character turns I've seen in a long time in a movie. And those first 30 minutes, like I knew what I knew what I was getting into, you know, when I hit play the first time. And I remember just going, you know, all right, I know he's gonna, you know, he's gonna turn and he's gonna capture her and become a, you know, pretty much eat her alive at some point, or not do it because, you know, she's the protagonist of the movie, so obviously maybe there's gonna be, you know, she's gonna get away, or maybe she's not, I don't know. But for those first 30 minutes where they get kind of cozy with one another and they meet cute, and like how they meet in that grocery store and how fucking charming he is. Holy shit. Like, I completely forgot I was about to watch a horror movie in that first act. And then when it fucking turns, I was like, oh yeah. And then the credits aren't even till like 35 minutes into the movie.
That's when you know you got a good movie.
The opening fucking credits of this movie don't kick in till 30 minutes in. And I had not seen, yes, Sebastian Stan is so underrated. People need to pay attention. Thank you. I have not seen, I I had not seen something like that in a movie. I feel like I've watched something recently. I got to check my letterbox. Maybe it was Hounds of Love, but I don't think they do it. I talked about it earlier. I don't think they do it 30 minutes in. I think it's more like 15, 20 minutes in, but I have not seen a movie do that since like an old trippy movie from the 1970s, which I felt like Fresh was kind of giving it that, like, there was a bit of like a funky, with like how his house is where he keeps all the women imprisoned. It's kind of
Yeah.
like a funky retro feel to it from what I remember. And like, I know you touched on it, so I'm just going to kind of meet you halfway on it and not go too far and say what's probably already been said by you. But I loved the climax of this movie. I loved how it wasn't like this kind of morbid, like, oh no, they're gonna die and they get eaten. And like, there is a fucking hell of a payoff at the end of this film. And I love the fact that Sebastian Stan plays, he's probably the best sociopath in a movie, like character in him, like hands down, one of the best sociopathic characters in the last 10 years I've seen in a film. I just want to see him in other things, but I don't know what yet, because I'm still kind of just like, enjoying the fact that he played such a great character in this film. Excuse me for a sec while I look something up real quick. I know I'm giving a lot of credit to Sebastian Stan, but Daisy Edgar Jones, who plays the main protagonist in the film, who gets kidnapped, she's a great actress in and of herself. She popped up this year in Under the Banner of Heaven, another Hulu series, which is a crime thriller, but it's about like evil Mormons in Utah. And my wife watched a little bit of that series. I didn't get to watch the whole thing, but there was some chilling moments in that series. So she hasn't done a lot of horror, but she was in another few other films that are kind of not horror, but like, crime dramas in a sense. So she's a great presence on screen as well. Yeah, but Fresh was just like, the second I heard about it and people kind of started selling me on it before I even saw it, but didn't give anything away for me. It made me enjoy it, because like cannibal films sometimes, like, I don't know, cannibalism rubs me the wrong fucking way. Like, I don't want somebody to eat me. Like, it's like that and getting buried alive. Like, those are like, no, I don't, fuck that. Like, like there was that film by the director of Titan, made that movie Raw about the
Oh
vegan
yeah, yeah.
who becomes
Mhm.
a cannibal. I
Two
love
movies I
that
have
movie,
not
but
seen yet.
it got a little too like, because it's fucking European, like it got a
Yeah.
little too like holy shit for me. And I think like Fresh was a nice way to like, not introduced, like we're not being introduced, but like have like a good like American cannibal film. So
Right.
yeah, fucking loved it. It's my number one. What is yours?
So my number one, um, actually, the interesting thing about this film and the director Rob Jabbas, um, I had no idea that I had seen some of his work already on the YouTube channel Alter. It's a great channel for
Yes.
different horror film aficionados and cinephiles. Um, they do a lot of hosting of independent works. So he has a horror film on there. There's a horror short film called Backstroke. I encourage you all to go and check that film out. It's not very long. It's only 10 minutes, 22 seconds. But the film that I thoroughly enjoyed and is actually one of the films that I told a lot of people not to watch, because I knew they probably wouldn't be able to stomach it. And that is none other than The Sadness.
Oh,
If
oh,
you have not seen the movie The Sadness and you are a gore hound, it's probably a movie for you. Um, it's I had no idea. I knew it was going to be gory. I had no idea it was going to be that gory.
it's mean.
It is super mean.
Yeah.
Um, it is one of those films that a lot of people, especially if you're in the zombie loving trope of community people or whatever, um, it's a zombie film. And
But
a
it's
lot
not
of
for casual zombie
it is
movies.
not for casual zombie film people at all. And there is this huge debate about what is and what is not a zombie film because
Yeah.
the thing with this film is that when you become a zombie, you are fully aware of what you're doing,
Yeah.
and you're not just eating the flesh of people. You're violating people. You're murdering them in the most vicious ways. You're ganging up on people. It's pretty much everything. It's kind of like if you're when you're watching Get Out, that this is the best way I can think of it. When you're watching Get Out and those characters are trapped inside of themselves and these other people are running amok in their body, forcing them to do all these other things, that's what the virus in this film does.
Yeah.
You get booted out of being able to control your body and your thoughts, and you're just taking a back seat while this virus makes you do whatever the hell it wants. And it's just so gory, and it's so like in your face, like, yeah, like if this happened, like y'all would be screwed kind of thing. And it's not a movie that is really trying to do anything other than be a bloodbath and be in your face disturbing.
Mhm.
And every now and then I like a film like that. And of course, Terrifier 2 is like that, but I saw The Sadness first, so The Sadness gets the seat. Plus, I know there are a lot of people that haven't seen it.
Well,
It's one of those
hold on.
movies. Go ahead.
Sadness is mean. Terrifier 2 is mean, but Art the Clown kind of does things like he's Bugs Bunny.
Yeah.
Like a lot of the setup is like a cartoon character. It just so happens that there's blood and guts. The sadness, like I had to put it on pause and be like,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, there were two times, like, dude,
I remember
the
texting
first,
you being like, I've seen this, I'm watching it for the third time.
yeah, dude, just the opening. It's not the opening scene, but like the scene where they're in the store and that lady, the disheveled, like messed up lady, comes in and just melts that dude's face. I was like, yo, like this is what we're getting into with this film. And it's one of those films where like my mother had started like watching horror films, which like I was just like, okay, um that's cool. Also, like it like
She might be
threw me for a loop. And then like she was like asking for recommendations, and I was like, oh, I really like this movie called The Sadness. And I think she was like one of the first people that I was like, but like, don't watch it. Like you're probably not going to like it. It is definitely one of those films where I wish there was a theatrical release for it.
Yeah.
Because I would honestly love to just watch the reaction of other people who have never seen the film.
Yeah.
And I also just like it because it's from Taiwan, and it's a country that's going through a lot right now, politically, and as far as film goes. Like they're having like this huge film boom, and I'm loving the stuff that's coming out of there. There's a lot of stuff that's coming out of India that I'm really loving. Um, if you haven't seen, I don't know if it's like or R or something like that, but go ahead, see that movie as well.
RRR.
Is it RRR?
I mean that. Yeah, I think that's what it's called.
That's like I know that's like a huge.
It's one of the best 3-hour movies I've ever fucking seen. I like clicked play on that, and I was just kind of like, God damn it, it's 3 hours.
Yeah.
And then I was just like, I like 20 minutes, and I was just like, nah, forget it. I love this. I have all the time in the world today. Fuck it.
Yeah. So Sadness is my number one film of 2022. I'm probably gonna watch it a few times this year. It's just there's not a lot of films that make me so uncomfortable that I'm just like, like you said, I had to pause it. I was like, yo, what?
We need to watch this in increments, dude.
Yeah. When somebody's like, it took me like 8 hours to watch that film, I'm like, okay, I get that.
All right,
It's a lot to take in.
let's recap here. Let me give my top five for the few who are listening right now. My top five. Number 5 was Scream. Number 4, The Black Phone. Number 3, Barbarian. Number 2, Hellraiser 2022. Number 1 was Fresh. What were yours?
So Pray, Fresh, Smile, Incantation, and The Sadness.
All right. Let this be, though, the part of the show now where we look ahead.
Yes, this will probably be the
2023.
quicker part of the show because we don't really have impressions of any of these.
Yeah,
films.
we don't, but like there's obviously a little what are you looking forward to in the coming year horror wise?
So, just for the sake of time, I'm probably just gonna like rattle these titles off pretty quickly.
Yeah, me too.
But there are 2 films above all else that I'm looking forward to the most. First one is Evil Dead Rise.
Oh fuck yeah, that was on my list. Cannot wait for that.
The remake of that film, I don't care what anybody says. I am perfectly fine with all the people that like the original over the remake. I prefer the remake. I loved that film.
I think the remake
so
is
much because
go ahead, sorry. Oh no, I froze. Oh no, he froze. He froze. Oh, okay. Generic froze again. We got to stop going for 2 hours and 40 minutes. For all he knows, I'm talking over him right now and he doesn't know that he froze. So what I'm going to do is say yes to go off what he was saying. Evil Dead, the 2013 one, which I thought was a solid remake to fit for today's audiences, worked really well. And I think that today's he got booted off. Shit, here we go again. Today's today's audience would probably relate. I think they're ready for something of that ilk of what the original Evil Dead probably would be into, or what it was. I'm always caught off guard. I can't fucking talk right every time he gets booted off. I'm gonna say mine real quick before he comes back. Just some movies I'm looking forward to. Obviously, one was Evil Dead. I agree with him on that. So a lot of the movies that are going to be coming out, not a lot of people know when they're actually coming out. Because I'm seeing like lists that only go like as far as like April or June. But I will say the new Scream, like I mentioned at the top of the show, when that comes out, that is going to be a lot of fun. Ghostface in New York City. Cannot wait for that. Yeah, he froze. We were doing good. I haven't looked at the there he is. He's coming back now. Oh, and look at that. All right, you're back.
all right, I'm on my phone. My internet is doing that weird thing again.
It's probably because we've been going for 2 hours and 40 minutes. But I was just agreeing with the audience with you on Evil Dead. So just continue with whatever else you had. Oh no, you're gone again. Fuck. You there? You there?
Yeah.
All right, go. Give me your fucking shit before you get kicked off again.
All right. Shelby Oaks is another one that seems pretty interesting. It was a combination between that and Cocaine Bear.
Oh my god, Cocaine Bear's on my list.
Infinity Pool, which is the Brennan Cronenberg film.
And Mia
Definitely
Goth is
excited
coming
for
back.
that.
She's in that. She looks
Yep.
fucking like she's gonna kill it in that role.
Another one that we talked about. Oh, I got the nice background here today.
Yeah, I
too,
noticed.
with
It's pretty
my
cool.
phone. Uh, um, so another film that we had talked about earlier this year, VHS 85, comes out this year. Well, we talked about it last year. This is first, so we talked about it last year. VHS 85 comes out in
Yes,
2023.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. So there's another VHS film coming out this year.
Fucking
And the one that I'm most excited for is an anime, which has been delayed several times. It's by Junji Ito, or from Junji Ito. It's Uzumaki.
okay.
So those are my top ones.
All right. I'm hyped for Infinity Pool as well. I went to a non-horror movie, the new Brendan Fraser potential Oscar-winning movie, The Whale. The preview for it was Infinity Pool was at this film, and it looks so fucking good. Like I said, I'm hyped to see more Brandon Cronenberg. Possessor kind of made me feel that way. I wanted to see what was next for him. Before you hopped back on, I said I was like hyped for the new Scream, Ghostface in New York.
Mm-hmm.
I'm curious to see what they do with the plot there. So this next one is like, I don't know if it's officially coming out next year because it keeps on like getting bumped, maybe. The Salem's Lot remake that James Wan is involved in.
Yeah.
But like I keep on hearing that it's getting pushed and whatnot. So I don't know per se if that's actually going to be officially coming out next year, but I'm looking at internet sources right now and I think it still is.
Mm-hmm.
One that will be dropping very soon on Shudder, literally in the next couple weeks, and it's getting a theatrical run. That is none other than Skinamarink. If you know what I'm talking about, you haven't heard of this one? Ooh,
let me look this up because I think I know what you're talking about.
My friend, you need to look it up.
So Skinamarink, as far as I know, is out already.
It is out, but it's like in select theaters right now.
Yes.
But Shudder, I think it's coming to Shudder in like a couple weeks.
Mm-hmm.
This is
highly talked about film.
Oh my God, yeah. Like the trailer of this, I'm just like, it sets that tone of waking up in the middle of the night and having to rush to the bathroom because you think the monster's going to get you. It just really kind of evokes that vibe of like, I'm kind of rehashing exactly what I just said, but just waking up in the middle of the night. It's like 2-3 in the morning. Maybe your dad is passed out on the couch and the TV's still on or something. But that's the plot of the movie. Supposedly it's about a bunch of two kids that wake up in the middle of the night and their dad is missing. And like, there's some weird shit going on with their house. I can't wait to put this film on at 11 o'clock at night. I'm going to fucking creep myself out with this. And if it does the trick, maybe it'll make my list for 2023. So
I feel like I don't even know how he would pull this off. Due to like legal issues and everything, but I feel like that would be like because I think that's coming out after we're done with the 10 episodes of the hot genre topics. But I feel like that would be an awesome episode of something to just have like a live session where both of us are watching that film and get like just a raw reaction.
Interesting.
With everyone else watching.
Hold on, like let me like Skinamarink. It's a weird title.
Skinamarink.
You're right. It technically is out because it says a 2022 release.
Yeah, but it's in very limited theaters.
Yeah, so technically it did come out this year, but I don't think it's going to be available to the masses or Shudder subscribers till.
So like, it says
January 13th.
Yeah.
Because it played Fantasia the 25th. It was at Fantasia over the summer. So
yeah, and it was at Fantastic Fest, which is also in Austin.
Dude, this movie had a budget of $15,000. Filmmakers, you have no excuse. You have no excuse. Go fucking make a movie.
You have a phone. You have a phone. That's all you need.
Yeah. All right. Let's wrap this thing to a close here. Let's put 2022 behind us. We're on to 2023. We have a few more episodes this season to cut. We will be back on January 15th.
Episode 8.
We don't know what it's about yet.
Yeah. We got 3 more.
Dude, maybe it's about Skinamarink. That'll be out by then.
Yeah. We'll both be watching it. So yeah, but we have 3 more episodes until the end of hot genre topics, unless people are just like come back.
I think we might be back.
Yeah.
All right. Do you have anything you need to plug?
So this month is pretty packed. So I'm unlike a lot of the months where I may not have any episodes at all, or episodes every other week, which is more kind of a comfortable spot for me. I have episodes on the Generic podcast every single Wednesday of this month. So was it the 4th, the 11th, 18th, and 25th, if I can read my handwriting from that far away. I have episodes every single Wednesday coming out. I also have a couple blog posts for this month planned, and I'm still going to be looking for beta readers for some of my work that is coming out some point this year. I don't want to put a definite date on it, just because I've gone back and done some heavy edits on some things, but I should have at least 1 or 2 novels coming out this year. So stay tuned for that stuff as well.
All right.
And that's it on my end.
On my end, tomorrow, the new episode of Tyler Geist's Basement drops. This is kind of cool because I always get to tease before it airs. Tomorrow on the show, I have the people behind A&P Films out of California. Angie DeAlba and Paul Ragsdale, who are... You know them?
So A&P Films, are you talking about Murder Size?
Yeah, dude, they're on. Yeah.
Nice.
Fucking they came by. We talk about Murder Size because I didn't know this. Actually, dude, I knew you knew them because I think you plugged their crowdfunding campaign, and I thought it ended, but I guess it's still going through January. So they're on the show. They're talking Murder Size. They're talking about making horror movies with porn stars in them. And it was they're a directing couple on set, and they're married in real life. I've had Jesus Christ, I think they're like the 4th or 5th guests on the show that are like a married filmmaking couple. Kind of cool. But they were fucking great. They have a lot of knowledge on just like kind of your grindhouse, like sleazy kind of movies, but still those films kind of say a lot about society, which I thought was kind of cool. We have a nice conversation about that at the tail end of the episode, but it was a lot of fun having them on. They have a few great films also on Tubi still as well, that we talk about. And tune in tomorrow. I have the episode sitting on my desktop. I'm going to upload it tonight. So I'll be there for you by like 4:00 in the morning. I don't know, but that's fucking it.
Cool. All right. Thank you all for coming out and hanging out with us again, talking about a whole bunch of movies and everything. And yeah, I guess that's it. We'll see you.
God, we need outro music or something. I fucking hate this. All right.
We'll come back for season 2.
Yeah, we'll